Chronicles of the Stellar Mecha War. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 826. Parents are here. It was the first time for Lin's father and mother to come to such a high-tech place as the launch base. Unconsciously, they didn't even dare to speak loudly. Zyro Wu, isn't your company in Gayo? Lin's mother pulled Wu Yusen's sleeve and asked quietly. The company is in Gayo, but this launch is at this base, so everyone is here. The awarding of honors will also be held here. Wu Yusen smiled and replied. Oh, Lin's mother replied, feeling uncertain. Where is Lin Fan? When can we see her? Lin's mother was used to the market. When she first came to such a serious occasion, she had to be cautious and restrain herself everywhere, feeling uncomfortable. At this time, she especially wanted to find someone close to her to rely on. Wu Yusen met the expectant eyes of the old couple and continued to lead people forward. She should still be busy. You two should rest in the guest house and eat something. I'll go see how she is doing over there. Okay, go quickly. Lin's mother replied without even needing Lin's father to speak. Wu Yusen smiled, settled the two of them, and sent a delicious meal up before leaving. Dad Lin looked through the French window at the launch tower that was so far away that he could only see the outline of it and remained silent. What are you doing? Mom Lin had already sat down and was eating heartily. The food here is really good, much better than our big restaurant. Come and eat. Dad Lin also sat down, but he ate very slowly. Mom Lin's plate was cleared, and he didn't even finish half of it. Old man, what's wrong with you? Mom Lin looked up and saw Dad Lin's face and suddenly became nervous. Are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere? Haven't you taken your blood pressure medicine this morning? As she said that, she quickly stood up and flipped through her small bag. Don't worry, I've taken the medicine. Dad Lin waved his hand quickly. I just suddenly remembered that the news has been reporting recently that the Noah is about to set sail. Noah is the new code name given to the shuttle by the LAN Alliance, and its full name is Noah Interstellar Shuttle Aircraft. This name was also decided by a group of people who almost had their brains shitted. Fortunately, Noah's Ark is a well-known thing in the whole Lansing, and the meaning is not bad. Although other forces are not so straightforward, at least they did not let each party get the naming rights. Thinking about it this way, it is not so difficult to accept. Seeing that Lin's father was not feeling unwell, Lin's mother immediately stopped being nervous and took out her mobile phone to reply. Yes, the Interstellar channel has been broadcasting for a long time, and it has been counting down. Let me see. Hey, it's tomorrow. Lin's father leaned over. Did it say where it was launched? Yes, it says. Isn't this where we are? Lin's mother was surprised. So Zyanofan's new technological research result is Noah? Lin's father still found it hard to believe. How could she make such a big spaceship? Noah had already appeared on the Interstellar Live broadcast channel when it arrived at the launch base a few days ago. Whether it is military fans or aviation fans, even ordinary people who know nothing about it are excited by its cool appearance and magnificent scale. Coupled with the performance data selectively released later, it can be said that the entire Lansing people thought that this interstellar shuttle suddenly appeared and was excited. Most people didn't know that this was a gift from the ugly woman and thought it was the result of Lansing's own technological development. They were so excited and proud that they couldn't express it in words. It also inspired more people to devote themselves to the development of science and technology in the future and build more powerful high-tech products. This is a later story. No way. Lin's mother replied hesitantly. It's impossible that there will be another spacecraft to be launched here tomorrow. Lin's father knew it was impossible. The launch interval of spacecraft is very long. Even if the safety of Noah is high, it is impossible to arrange two spacecraft to be launched at the same launch base on the same day. The staff is also too busy. The old couple fell into a circle of doubts, obvious facts and impossible results. Maybe they can only know when they meet the girl and ask her in person. After waiting for several hours, it was dark before Lin Fan appeared. As soon as she saw Lin's father and mother, her mouth moved a little, but she couldn't make a sound. Silly child, why don't you call someone? Lin's mother was a little angry after waiting and saw Lin Fan still standing at the door in a daze and slapped her arm. What are you doing? Lin's father pushed Lin's mother away unhappily. How long have you not seen the child? Can you be well? Don't you see where this place is? Lin's mother immediately restrained herself. Dad, Mom, have you been waiting for a long time? Lin Fan relaxed because of the familiar atmosphere. Are you hungry? Let's go eat first. I'm not hungry, Lin's mother muttered and put down her bag. But it's time for dinner. Eating on time is good for your health. Let's go. She took Lin Fan's arm, looked at her while walking, and pinched her arm and palm, and kept saying you've lost weight, and did you eat well, and other such concerns. Lin's father listened happily, holding a stainless steel thermos cup, and walking on the other side of Lin Fan. Lin Fan has been to the cafeteria of the launch base several times. Most of the staff know who she is. When they see her with her family, they all quietly step away. Zio Fan, Lin's mother exclaimed excitedly, I find that they all seem to respect you very much. Regardless of age or what clothes they wear, they all take the initiative to nod and greet Lin Fan when they see her. Lin's mother had doubted that her daughter could not achieve any great achievements, but now she believed it and stood straighter unconsciously. Well, they are all very polite. Lin Fan did not explain too much. Hey, each of you has a tray. Take whatever you want to eat. Don't think about saving money. We eat here for free. Lin's mother was even happier when she heard this and stood in front of Lin Fan to pick dishes. Don't waste it, even if it doesn't cost money, Lin's father reminded in a low voice. Pay attention to the amount. I know. Lin's mother was happy and didn't want to hear Lin's father yelling, so she replied perfunctorily. But she also paid attention to the amount. The three of them found a table and sat down with full plates. Most of the dishes Lin's mother picked were Lin Fan's favorites, and the few dishes Lin Fan picked were what his parents often ate at home. Lin's father was fair, taking care of Lin Fan and Lin's mother, and he only picked a side dish. Lin Fan even got a bottle of mate for Lin's father. If there was no small wine glass, he just found a soup bowl. Father Lin looked at the strong aroma of wine emanating from the white porcelain bowl in front of him, not knowing how to sigh. Mother Lin enjoyed the attention of the people around her and paid special attention to her behavior. The special environment and the unusual dishes whetted the appetites of the three people who were not very hungry. The rare gathering also made the atmosphere during the meal warm. Halfway through the meal, the number of people in the cafeteria gradually decreased, and Mother Lin finally remembered to speak. Zio Fan, Zio Wu said that you have made achievements in scientific research and are now going to be awarded by the G family. What's going on? We can't understand it, no matter how hard we think about it, and he won't tell us. This is not suitable to talk about now. I will take you to a place later, and then you will know everything. Lin Fan smiled faintly. Seeing that Mother Lin wanted to ask more questions, Father Lin pulled her arm and reminded her in a low voice. Keep it a secret. Oh. Mother Lin looked around, and it was indeed not a good place to talk. Then there is another thing. Mom asks you. Mother Lin said again. Why are you so nosy? Father Lin glared at her. Didn't I say I'll talk about it later? Stop arguing. Lin's mother was also unhappy and looked at Lin Fan. This time it's not a secret. I just want to ask. I heard that Xingchen will also fly into space with Noah, and she is here now. I like this girl very much. I just want to know, aren't you the head of research and development? Can you let us meet Xingchen and that girl? Although Lin's father didn't say anything, the look in his eyes clearly showed that he was thinking about it. Lin Fan smiled. Okay, I'll arrange for you to meet later. Chapter 827 Inform. Thanks to Lin Fan's special status, the two elders of the Lin family were able to visit the shuttle nearby. However, the person who took them there was changed to Wu Yusen. Busy every day, not seeing people every day, how can this little time be missed? Lin's mother followed Wu Yusen and couldn't help but nagging. Say less. Lin's father pulled Lin's mother and warned her in a low voice. Don't you see where this is? Wu Yusen didn't want Lin Fan to be complained about like this, so he started to defend himself. The Lin department is now rushing to do the last safety inspection before taking off. There are many inspection items, and it takes a long time. Only now can we finish it before midnight. If we are late, I'm afraid it will delay tomorrow's progress. After all, the awarding ceremony will start early tomorrow morning. I know. Lin's father replied guiltily and complained to Lin's mother again. Our daughter is so capable that the G family has come to commend her. She must be as busy as possible. Do you think you are? Lin's mother glared at Lin's father and smiled at Wu Yusen again. I understand. Auntie, just don't talk about this. Don't talk about this. The shuttle stopped in the open space outside the launch base, some distance away from the rocket on the launch tower. Wu Yusen specially found a commuter tram to take the two elders out of the base gate. After driving for less than 5 minutes, they saw a vague shadow in the night ahead. Further ahead, the unactivated shuttle was like a dominant behemoth, lurking in the darkness in a low-key manner. The old two opened their mouths and had no chance to close them. As they got closer and closer, the shock and pressure of the shuttle in person were completely different from what they saw on TV. When they really entered, Lin's father and mother were so nervous that they didn't know where to put their hands, and they walked lightly, fearing that they would accidentally break something. Wu Yusen took them on a quick tour of the shuttle. Like a tourist, he introduced the main control room, captain's room, cafeteria, activity room and other environments where Lin Fan would live and work in the future. Until they got out of the shuttle, the old couple still hadn't recovered. My daughter developed this thing. Father Lin had some faith before he saw it with his own eyes, but now that it was revealed, he felt that this matter was so outrageous. Mother Lin's mind was already in a mess, and she just pinched the corner of Father Lin's clothes and couldn't speak. Wu Yusen didn't explain much and took people into the base to find Lin Fan. Lin Fan was doing the last physical examination and data recording before leaving the star in the testing room specially vacated for Xingqian. The members of the special Xingqian team of the Special Affairs Office were all there, and they were all familiar with the steps. After 2 or 3 hours of one process, everything was normal. When Father Lin and Mother Lin arrived, they had just finished their work. The tester was pulling down the wires on her combat uniform. Seeing the two old people coming in, everyone tacitly put down the equipment they had not finished packing and walked out silently. The old couple saw Lin Fan, who was dressed differently. She was wearing a tight jumpsuit and some high-tech thing on her head. She didn't look like a scientific researcher. Father Lin looked at the pile of white coats passing by, and there was a vague consciousness in his heart that something was wrong. This doesn't look like a developer, but more like Xiao Fan. Lin's mother took a few quick steps and stopped when she saw Lin Fan approaching. What are you wearing? Seeing the slippery combat uniform on Lin Fan, Lin's mother reached out and couldn't help but touch it. This uniform is too tight. It doesn't look good. Only the 3 members of the Lin family and Wu Yusen were left in the room. Of course, this was just on the surface. Dad, Mom. Lin Fan pulled Lin's mother's hand down. I have something to tell you. In Lin's father's uneasy eyes, Lin Fan briefly told her about everything that happened to her, leaving aside the serious injury, and finally talked about leaving Langsing tomorrow. Wu Yusen watched Lin's father gradually become sluggish, his fists clenched, and his whole body trembling. Lin's mother went from confusion to pale face, and then her face flushed, trembling and unable to speak. I will not be around you in the future. You should take good care of your health, and don't be reluctant to spend money. I make a lot of money. I will transfer it to your cards in proportion every month. It is enough for you to live a rich life. The rest is on my card. When you have major needs, tell Wu Yusen. As long as it is reasonable, he will help me pay. Don't worry about healthcare. These are now under the management of the G family. No matter what you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to pay for it yourself. If you have a headache or fever, just find Wu Yusen. Anyway, if you have any problems, just find him. Song Ren and the others will also be fine. I have already told them. Yes, uncle and aunt. Wu Yusen smiled and continued. Just treat me as your own son. I don't believe it. Lin's mother covered her face and took a few steps back. What do you mean you are Xingqian? What do you mean you want to leave Langsing? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Lin's mother understood, but she refused to believe it. Lin Fan didn't say anything else and turned into Xingqian directly. The sudden change made Lin's father and mother stare wide-eyed. Tears welled up in Lin's father's eyes, and he carefully examined every piece of Xingqian's armor. Lin's mother trembled as she walked to Xingqian and touched the cold shell. They all liked Xingqian and had watched countless videos of Xingqian killing Gro. They always talked about Xingqian at home and bought a lot of dolls and figurines. Lin's mother often compared Xingqian with Lin Fan. The girl was so powerful in her 30s, but why was Lin Fan so disobedient and always made her worry? But who would have thought? The Xingqian they had been thinking about turned out to be their own Lin Fan. If they had only known about this change, Lin's father and mother might have been left with only pride after being shocked. But before the old couple had time to digest this emotion, the news that she would leave Blue Star the next day with an unknown journey and an uncertain return date broke out again. The only information that Lin's father and mother received at the moment was that their child would never come back, and the shock was imaginable. That was a mission to explore the universe. No matter how advanced the shuttle is, no matter how powerful Xingqian is, how can people feel at ease when entering a place that no one knows? What's more, they are biological parents. Lin's mother suddenly slapped herself and cried. Blame me, it's all my fault, it's all my fault. Everyone was caught off guard and slapped her several times, and her face immediately turned red. Xingqian raised her hand, but was afraid of hurting Lin's mother, so Wu Yusen held Lin's mother's hands, and Lin's father also came over to hug the old woman. If it weren't for me, Xiaofan wouldn't get sick, wouldn't jump into the river, wouldn't become a useless Xingqian. Blame me. Lin's mother cried and looked at Qingbei in front of her. She couldn't see anything clearly in the blurred tears, and was only full of regret. She always wanted to be better than others, to be more powerful than others, and always urged Lin Fan to work hard and make progress. Lin Fan became a supervisor in Gao, and she felt that he could be better. Lin Fan became a department head in Ririhang, and she thought Xingqian was even more powerful. But now, when the Xingqian Mecha was right in front of her, telling her that this was the daughter she had always thought was not good enough, she had no time to be happy, and her heart was filled with sadness. Because Xingqian was about to embark on a dangerous journey of unknown life and death, and as her biological mother, she could do nothing. Nothing. As parents, they never wanted their children to be too far away from them. But for life, for ideals or for other reasons, things always went against their wishes. But in the past, no matter how far the distance was, they were still in Langsing, stepping on the same land, and they could see each other in 3 or 4 hours of driving. Where is it now? The universe. Space. Even if Lin's mother didn't understand anything, she knew that it was not a place where you could go and come back whenever you wanted. Not to mention the risks involved. Just like people entering the sea, it is difficult to control once you enter. They are all over 60 years old. Can they still wait until the day Lin Fan comes back? Lin's mother thought pessimistically. I'm afraid this separation will be forever, right? She suddenly began to hate herself at this moment. If she hadn't been like that at the beginning, the glory of Langsing was none of her business, and she didn't want to care how many people died or lived. When she felt that she was about to lose her, she just wanted her daughter to be alive and kicking by her side, not to risk her life and death for the so-called glory. Lin's mother's love for her daughter reached its peak at this moment, but it was too late. Xingqian squatted on one leg, watching the usually arrogant Lin mother crying so hard, and her heart was extremely complicated. She also shed tears silently in the mecha. Lin's father had red eyes, holding the emotionally collapsed Lin mother, looking at the strange yet familiar mecha. Since you are doing this for the G family and the people, you must do it well. Don't let down the trust of the G family and the organization. Take good care of yourself outside. Be safe. Don't miss home. Your parents are waiting for you to come back. Lin's father choked. His fat face was full of tears, and he managed to sort out these few words from his chaotic thoughts. What bullshit are you talking about? What bullshit are you talking about? Lin's mother screamed and turned around to slap Lin's father. What bullshit are you talking about? My daughter is going to die. If you want to go crazy, go out and go crazy. Don't disturb the girl here. Go. Lin's father sobbed and tried to pull Lin's mother but failed. Wu, help me take your aunt away. Don't affect Fan's mood. Wu Yusen looked at Xingqian, who seemed to have turned into a sculpture, and silently helped Lin's father to carry Lin's mother out. In the quiet room, Xingqian was still squatting and motionless. After a long time, a long sigh came. People always wait until they lose something before they regret it. When Lin Fan jumped into the river, no one could find him, and Lin's mother also regretted it, but later Lin Fan survived, and this regret disappeared. Now Lin Fan is really going to leave, and Lin's mother regrets it again, but it's useless. This time it's force majeure. I was going to explode more emotionally in this part, but after thinking about it, forget it. What's the point of emotion? Just follow the plot. I will never admit that I can't write it. Chapter 828 Ikiaf. Whether they like it or not, the sun rose as usual the next day. Lin's mother had calmed down a lot. She and Lin's father didn't sleep all night, fearing that they would miss the last chance to see their daughter. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the Interstellar Channel broadcast live the collective awarding ceremony for all members of the NOAA. Because there are so many crew members and they come from different forces on Langsing, the awardees are also the leaders of various forces who personally issue them to the members of each party. This is also the first time that the leaders of Langsing have gathered since Gro's attack. There are more than 1,000 crew members selected for the shuttle this time. In addition to the administrative personnel responsible for the normal operation of the spacecraft, scientists and technicians in their own fields, most of them are elite forces with strong military power. The shuttle is not small in size, but many spaces have special uses, such as equipment and weapons. There is not much space for people to live. With so many people suddenly settled in, it is destined that the living environment of most people will not be too spacious. Among them, the elite forces who account for the largest proportion and serve as crew members have the smallest living space and are arranged to have 8 people in a room, which is similar to the dormitory in student days. However, these elite forces were originally used to living in the military and they were mentally prepared for the future adventure life, so they did not have such high requirements for the dormitory environment. As for the bed, it was fine, as long as it could be used for sleeping. Besides, there was more room for activities on the spacecraft, which was much more comfortable than some ships. So, after a large group of Langsing Aerospace special contribution medals were awarded, Lin Fan came on stage. She wore a bright red double-breasted long dress today, with golden buttons and gold thread embroidery on the epaulets shining brightly. She wore trousers of the same color, paired with black flat-heeled boots. Because she was not from the military, she did not have a hat. Her hair was shoulder length, specially trimmed neatly, with sharp ends, a bit like Sassoon's hairstyle, high at the back, and low at the front, with a 3:7 side part. This outfit, coupled with her constant stern face, made her young face look cool and professional. As soon as she stood on the stage, the large screens on both sides displayed her basic information. Unlike others, Xingqian's photo was also displayed on the side, with multiple meritorious performances marked. The people who were watching the live broadcast had no time to wonder why the captain was such a young lady, but they were overwhelmed by the huge shock. So this is what Xingqian looks like. At the same time, all the Mecha information on the official website was refreshed, and each biological armor showed the main body information, and the driver information of the bionic armor was announced. This was led by Party H. They wanted all heroes to no longer be unknown. In addition to being awarded the Langsing Aerospace Special Contribution Medal like everyone else, Lin Fan was personally awarded the Aerospace Merit Medal. This was a medal that existed a few years ago and was specially set up to commend outstanding contributions to the aerospace industry. It is much more valuable than the Langsing Aerospace Special Shared Medal specially set up for this interstellar journey. After the awarding of the medal, Lin Fan spoke on behalf of all the crew members as the captain of the NOAA. Lin's father and mother watched from the side without blinking. It turned out that their daughter had done so many amazing things without them knowing. Over the years, she hadn't revealed anything. If she hadn't left Langsing, she would have kept it a secret for her whole life. Mother Lin was both proud and sad. She wanted to cry, but didn't dare to. She kept reminding herself in her heart that Lin Fan was leaving today, and she shouldn't cry. It was unlucky. She covered her mouth with both hands and bit her lips hard, not daring to make a sound. Suddenly someone next to her said, "Look, does Minister Lin look like a wedding dress today?" "Yes, I heard that Minister Lin has always been single, and has never been married." The road ahead is dangerous. Is she marrying herself to Country H and Langsing? Mother Lin raised her blurry eyes and looked at Lin Fan, only to see a ball of bright red. Since the octopus ship had been waiting in outer space for 2 days, the takeoff ceremony was kept as simple as possible. A platform was set up directly in the open air square in front of the Noah, with the huge Noah as the background. After Lin Fan finished his speech, a group of people lined up to board the ship. After everyone had boarded the ship, the deputy captain and the first mate all stood at the door. Lin Fan was the last to board the ship, standing by the door and waving to the people below. There were many familiar faces below. She glanced at them and paused for a moment to focus on Lin's father and mother. She looked deeply at Wu Yusen next to her. After seeing him nod solemnly, she turned around and entered the cabin. The cabin closed quickly, and the broadcast camera cut halfway to the view inside the cabin. No one in the square left. They all held their breath and watched the picture on the big screen next to them, waiting for the Noah to take off. Lin Fan and others quickly entered the spacecraft control room. She sat on the egg-shaped chair that she was most familiar with and skillfully called up the touch control console. Thinking back to the first time she sat here, it was when she just discovered the shuttle. Because of carelessness, she accidentally touched the touchscreen and didn't dare to move, so she stuck herself in the chair and didn't dare to move at all. The past seemed like yesterday. Lin Fan's mouth curled up slightly and ordered loudly, "Noah. First voyage. Take off." The technicians who had been on standby in the control room responded and took action. Soon, a huge airflow was ejected from the bottom of the Noah, spreading to the surroundings, causing the people who were waiting to watch the ceremony to retreat with their heads in their hands. Noah slowly and steadily lifted off in the panic of the crowd. Just like a helicopter, it lifted off straight up and down. It turned its bow while lifting off, and when it was about 20 meters, the bow was facing the podium, which was the location of the external camera, and it shook lightly downward, as if nodding to everyone. Then it accelerated and turned, and soon disappeared from people's sight. Report. The power system is normal. It is maintaining high-speed propulsion, and is about to leave the atmosphere. Report. The navigation system is normal. The guide ship has been found. Report. The air pressure in the ship is normal, and the personnel activities are normal. Report. The reports were urgent and fast, and all the operators were busy in an orderly manner without caring about the sadness of leaving. The unbusy crew members were also staring at the shared screen in the activity room or their own cabins, paying attention to the progress of the first official entry into space. Lin Fan also had 2 deputy captains and 3 first mates under him, and each of them had their own responsibilities. As the captain, Lin Fan has the most power, but he has the least administrative functions. He doesn't need to really ask about any practical affairs on weekdays. He is almost like a mascot who is on duty to escort the ship. But when the shuttle enters space for the first time, she dare not be careless. She knows her ability and responsibility very well. Although she doesn't ask about things on weekdays, she is definitely the one with the highest power and ability on the Noah. After successfully reuniting with the Octopus Man's ship, she followed them and flew for a distance. The Octopus people confirmed that there was no problem with their flight operation, so they notified the Noah to prepare for the space jump. They have been stranded in the solar system for a long time. If they hadn't agreed to come back to pick up the ship from Langsing, they would have run away long ago. Now, in order to take care of the Noah's first jump, it was decided to try a short distance first, jumping directly from the back of the moon to the vicinity of Pluto. If there is no problem, after a period of repair, jump again. Jump directly out of the Kuiper belt and out of the solar system. The reason for choosing to stay near Pluto is to give Noah the opportunity to throw a communication satellite. Otherwise, with Langsing's current technological capabilities, it would take at least 10 years to send a new communication satellite over. If they want to communicate with Noah, they don't know how long they will have to wait. Everyone on Noah was very surprised. Are they going to leave the solar system so soon? Everyone was on high alert. According to the positioning coordinates given by the Octopus Man, they set the jump point based on the relative positions of the 2 ships. After confirming with the Octopus Man again that it was correct, they started the jump program. Noah's shield was opened, and the entire hull of the ship was passed by the stream of light, and the originally bright white hull became dark. The 10-minute space jump countdown began. At this time, someone suddenly shouted, "Captain, there is a new communication request. Connect." Lin Fan replied decisively, "The jump will block signal communication." After confirming with the octopus man just now, the two sides took the initiative to cut off contact. Could it be that they have something else to tell them? Many people thought so. But when the familiar faces filled the entire screen, everyone was stunned. "Lin Fan, let me in." Antonio grinned and laughed recklessly. "Hurry up. I don't want to get lost in the turbulence of space." Finally flew. Well, this volume is finished. From the next volume, it is equivalent to a new story. Lin Fan will go on adventures on planets after planets in the universe. There will be more concentrated explorations, fighting and other plots. After the warmth ends, things will start to get going. The rhythm and style will be changed a lot, and it will not be as slow as before. I hope you like it. We're another step closer to the end. Haha. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 829, Boring Interstellar. What is it like outside the solar system? I wonder how many Lansing people have imagined its magnificent and splendid scenery. But if you ask the people on Noah, they will definitely tell you, don't think too much. It's no different from the doorstep of your home. The same pitch black sky, the sky that you can't see the end of at a glance, and the same countless stars. All the members of Noah also had passionate expectations. But when they really got outside the solar system, it was just so-so. Those scientists engaged in scientific research, especially astronomers, were very excited when they first entered the solar system. After finally being patient and parting ways with the octopus people, they eagerly asked to land on the nearest star body, and they wanted to collect samples. Such a reasonable request would certainly not be rejected. They came out to explore. Look. You can look at it at will. Noah used dozens of planets to practice the relevant control of flight to key off and landing, and those scientists gradually calmed down. The collected materials can be studied to find something, but those they explored were all barren planets, at most some chemical components, not even minerals. There are countless stars like this in space. How can they have so much time to explore them one by one? I'm afraid that by the time they die, they will not be able to see all the stars in their field of vision. So half a year later, the person in charge of scientific research took the initiative to propose that they would never stop exploring unless it was a special star or a star that could detect life. Of course, whenever they were short of research materials, they could randomly select a star to explore nearby and collect materials to continue their daily research. After this incident, the speed of Noah's navigation was greatly accelerated. Except for the group of scientific researchers, most people went through the initial curiosity period, and after the excitement subsided, they began to feel bored. At first, the crew thought that they would encounter a strong enemy like Grow at any time, and they were always tense. Later, after exploring several stars in a row and finding nothing, they gradually relaxed their bodies and minds. The long interstellar voyage is not even as good as sailing on the sea. You can go to the deck to get some fresh air, look at the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and bathe in the sea breeze. On Noah, they see stars every day, countless stars. The only difference is the size, color, and composition. The crew went from being amazed at first to being indifferent now, and even felt that they could see stars when they closed their eyes. They didn't really want to encounter the enemy, but such a dull and boring life really made them fade out of the bird. Fortunately, the space on the Noah is large enough, and the energy that can't be vented is consumed by daily confrontation, while taking into account physical fitness and vigilance. The relationship between the crew members was not particularly harmonious when they were on Lansing, because the parties belonged to different forces and often competed with each other. But after being on the Noah for a long time, those barriers gradually melted away. They may not be as close as a family, but at least they can go drinking together like brothers. After sailing for more than 300 days, the Noah is still floating in the universe, and the people on the ship have adapted to this boring and comfortable interstellar life. How long will it take to get there? Antonio slumped in his chair and sighed. This is completely different from the interstellar exploration I imagined. After leaving the solar system, the OKT Persians took them forward for a while before parting. Before leaving, they gave the Noah a coordinate. They said there was a life planet near this location, and the biological form and structure seemed to be similar to that of Langsing. When the ship of Octopus passed by, it detected the life signal. After connecting to the other party's satellite on the ship, it felt that the technological structure and form were too low, and it was not worth going there, so it just left. Maybe Noah wants to take a look. They also gave several coordinates of biological planets with obvious markings, but most of them are far away, and the level of civilization is also dangerous to Noah. It is recommended that Noah go there after having enough experience. Noah is still convinced by the octopus man and is curious about life forms similar to itself and looking forward to another Langsing, so it directly follows the navigation to find it. But it has been nearly a year and it has not arrived yet. Interstellar journey is completely different from what they thought. What? Lin Fan didn't even raise his head, focusing on the book in his hand. Regret it? Antonio clung to the hull when Noah was about to jump in space, which scared Lin Fan. It was also because Antonio had the energy of the world tree in his body, which was the same as that of the Noah. In the absence of an attack, the Noah assumed that he was a part of itself, so there was no alarm. If he hadn't spoken out and jumped in this form, Antonio would have been lost in the turbulence of space. The countdown continued because it was impossible to stop it by jumping synchronously with the octopus man. The Lan Meng who was watching in front of the live broadcast naturally saw Antonio. It was only then that Tovi realized that his baby had run away from home. He beat his chest and stamped his feet and rushed to the camera and cursed without caring about his demeanor and image. Lin Fan was still trying to persuade Antonio to return to Langsing, but he was clearly a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. He wanted to go to the interstellar and explore. At this time, he was affected by OV for no reason, and he was very upset. The countdown next to him was less than 2 minutes, and Antonio was still sticking to the Noah and refused to let go. Lin Fan stared at Ovi's ferocious face and smiled provocatively and ordered the nearest door to be opened and let the person in. Ovi was even more furious, spewing out all kinds of unpleasant words, but after a while, the signal was cut off. It's impossible to regret it. Antonio hurriedly expressed his loyalty. I'm just saying it casually. If I had known that it would take so much effort on the road, wouldn't it be better to just jump over and look slowly? How much time can it save? Interstellar exploration is originally about walking and watching. Who knows if you will miss anything during the jump. Jin Sichin was sitting seriously with a Bluetooth headset in one ear and holding a tablet. No one would have thought that Professor Jin, who looked like a nobleman, played a TV series on his tablet. And space jumps consume a lot of energy. We have just started sailing and have not found suitable energy materials. It's better to use it sparingly. Wu Yi, a nurse on 623, also boarded the ship. After training, her round face was once much thinner, but fortunately, the chef of Noah was awesome and she recovered soon. Look, little girls are more sensible than you, Lin Fan said indifferently and turned another page in his hand. This is the novel Wu Yi recommended to her. It looks really confusing and tempting. Yes, it's my fault. I shouldn't have opened my mouth. Antonio turned over and shut himself in. Why don't these countrymen seem to be in a hurry at all? Or is he really too impatient? This resting place is located at the top of the Noah. It is decorated with flowers and vegetation from Langsing and has been built into a garden. The dome-shaped top can directly reflect the external scene. When this function is turned on, the ceiling is equivalent to a glass roof and you can directly see the starry sky outside. It is very beautiful and a good place for everyone to relax. After a while, a voice came from Lin Fan's headphones. After listening, she closed the book in her hand and stood up. What's wrong? Antonio turned over when he heard the noise, with expectation in his eyes. We have discovered the life planet. Let's go. A new journey is about to begin. Chapter 830 No Life Star. Lin Fan didn't want her acquaintances and friends to be tied up on the Noah because of her, but in the end, it was unavoidable. Jin Sichin went on board. Because of his superb professional quality and his natural talents, he became the psychologist of the Noah. I'm an orphan, you know. I don't have any concerns on Langsing. Jin Sichin told Lin Fan not to feel burdened. Compared to Langsing, I want to explore the origin of my talent and find newer. What's more, this is my sincere expression to the ugly woman. When Jin Sichin persuaded the ugly woman, he also tied himself to the Noah. When she saw Wu Yi, she was surprised. The little nurse always had a round face and a blessed look. Her healthy diet combination left a deep impression on Lin Fan. Could she also be an orphan? Lin Fan thought. No, my parents are here. Wu Yi replied with a smile. But, I have a younger brother. No matter how hard I try, my family can't see my good side. They always ask me to subsidize my younger brother. After a long time, I always have some inexplicable emotions in my heart. Wu Yi forced a smile. I can't get rid of the external reluctance and the awkwardness in my heart, so I just ran away. In the future, the world is high and the earth is far away, and I don't have to think about these things anymore. Compared with Lin Fan's helplessness, Wu Yi seemed very happy. Compared with these two people, Sen Fangyuan's appearance surprised Lin Fan more. This person has been at 800, handling various matters before the Noah's Tikiaf. He was originally the old man's secretary. He always looked warm and skillful, and he handled various affairs skillfully. He also handled the relationship between various forces just right, which made people unable to find fault. Lin Fan thought he was just dealing with the matters before the Noah took off, but he didn't expect to know, after entering the launch base before the flight, that he was appointed as the deputy captain, specializing in managing all matters on the Noah. Although he was surprised, he thought it was natural. After thinking about it, Sen Fangyuan lived up to his reputation. It was her fault. The list had been sent to her a long time ago, but she didn't read it. With this chief steward, Captain Lin Fan could really let go of his hands. He ate, drank and had fun every day, and was more carefree than ordinary crew members. So when he saw Cui Yan again, Lin Fan was no longer surprised. Of course, it might also have something to do with the fact that he had no emotional ties with Cui Yan. Cui Yan was still cold and serious. He assisted Sen Fangyuan and was the first mate in charge of material coordination and logistics. He was very meticulous in his work and was indeed very suitable for this job. In addition to these people, the eldest brother and the 1000-year-old master also boarded the ship. They were big brothers. Lin Fan was surprised, but not worried at all. The eldest brother brought his Zioye Ocean on board, found a secluded place to settle down, and lived in it. He never came out. As for the 1000-year-old master, he wandered around the ship in the body of the little black cat. People who know how powerful it is, dare not manage it, and people who don't know it don't take it seriously, thinking that it was brought by the Animal Husbandry and Animal Management Department. Many people couldn't help but go up to rub such a cute little animal. Lin Fan saw it several times and was afraid that this old man would be irritated and finally affect the Noah. But in the end, it seemed that the 1000-year-old master enjoyed all kinds of touches and really treated himself as an ordinary little black cat. If Lin Fan hadn't seen the magic weapon on his neck, he would have suspected that he had mistaken the cat. The newly discovered life planet is indeed very similar to Langsing. A large area is covered by water, and the land area is larger than that of Langsing. There are only small areas of fractures, and it can almost be regarded as a whole. Noah flew around in a circle from a distance, basically surveyed the approximate terrain and landforms, and also saw several satellites floating outside the planet. The whole ship was overjoyed. Hurry up. Send a message back to Langsing. The first mate in charge of scientific research and exploration suggested. This is a major discovery, much more significant than the digging of soil and stones on those stars before. No hurry. Sen Fangyuan, the deputy captain and the actual executive captain, said slowly. Let's wait until we are sure that there are indeed life forms on the planet. Yes, there is a planet, but it is not yet confirmed whether there is life. The technicians who have been idle for too long rekindled their enthusiasm for work and skillfully operated the buttons. After waiting for a while, the large screen showed the distribution of life on the surface of the planet. There are life forms, and quite a lot. Everyone saw it and spoke up. It's just that the green dots representing the distribution of life forms are very densely distributed, which does not look like a mature human settlement environment. It looks more like a wild ecological distribution. Did the octopus man make a mistake? Another deputy captain in charge of driving and spacecraft system related affairs sat in the chair below Lin Fan and asked in confusion. Or did we find the wrong planet? Not this one. The deputy captain's name is Ilya Glebulyanov, a bearded man in his 40s. He is from country E and is a very experienced old aviation man. He has driven various spacecraft many times, including but not limited to space shuttles, and is proficient in going back and forth in space. As a professional with such rich experience, it is most appropriate for him to be responsible for Noah's navigation route and ship control. This big brother is very considerate, whether it is because of the relationship from a friendly country or his own personality. Although his position is parallel to Sen Fangyan, both are deputy captains. He only focuses on his own duties and does not ask anything outside of the spacecraft control. It shouldn't be. Lin Fan shook his head. We have been following the navigation. Since there is a satellite, let's try to connect and see if we can talk to the other party directly. Sen Fangyan ordered. Understood. The technician was busy for a while. Report. The other party's satellite signal has been connected, but the satellite's signal to the ground is blocked, and the ground signal cannot be connected. This road was blocked. At this time, almost everyone felt something was wrong, but the full screen of green dots made it difficult for them to resist. Send a drone in to record the internal situation of the planet. Sen Fangyan ordered decisively. Received. Recording drone status check. Energy check. Launch preparation. Launched. The drone was carried by Noah, a high-tech product. After launching 5 drones in a row, it didn't take long for the big screen to show the picture. The towering high-rise buildings, the scattered villages and towns, the block transportation, everything is really very similar to Lansing. It is the trace of the survival of a high-level civilization. Someone couldn't help but say happily. Sen Fangyan looked more carefully. The productivity level is comparable to Lansing, maybe slightly lower. It looks like Lansing in the millennium. It is not difficult to judge these buildings and the manufacturing level of machinery. In terms of technology, from the scattered satellites hanging in low Earth orbit that can be counted on one hand, it can be seen that at least the development of space technology is not as good as that of Lansing. The drone continued to go deeper, and the picture became clearer. The city with complete facilities looked like an abandoned steel monster, with broken glass, exposed steel bars, and unmaintained roads overgrown with bushes. Although the color was yellow, it was full of vitality, but somehow, it made people feel cold all over. The whole city was abandoned? Why? What about those life forms? They can see that this location is covered with dense green dots. Before everyone can finish sighing, the creeper-like plants covering the outside of the building seemed to be blown by the strong wind and swayed. Then the whole bush began to move, curling, crawling around the building like a snake. The drone flexibly drilled into the broken window through the gap, exposed by the vines. This is an ordinary residential house. The shabby furniture in the living room can still show the original owner's care in arranging it. There is a broken photo frame on the high platform by the window. Although it is covered with dust, a human figure can be vaguely seen. The technician controlled the drone to approach and used airflow to blow away the floating dust, revealing a face that is exactly the same as Land Crossing's child. Before everyone could sigh, the drone was suddenly pulled out by something. Sparks flashed, and the signal was interrupted. Chapter 831 Mutant Star. Lang Bingru was in a state of disgrace, holding on tightly to the wall behind her, unable to retreat. Not far in front of her, 2 big men seemed to enjoy watching her frightened expression, approaching slowly. If you run again, I'll see where you can run to. One of them smiled obscenely. You little girl still wants to play with me. Lang Bingru clenched her fists, and her palms were hurt by the nails. She originally had a dagger for self-defense, but unfortunately she didn't know where it was lost in the previous melee. Her superpowers were also exhausted. Even if she still had some, the auxiliary healing superpowers were useless against strong attackers like them. She felt lucky to be saved by them when she was in a desperate situation before, but now she thought it would be better to die with the captain and the others in the mutant plants. At least she could end up clean. The wolf in sheep's clothing showed its claws not long after pretending. Lan Bingru saw that she was about to encounter a tragedy, but she didn't even have the ability to resist, so she closed her eyes in despair. She felt hot air spraying on her face, her clothes being roughly grabbed, and then her chest felt cold. Just as she was about to throw the stone she had just touched at the other person's head as a last stand, she felt a stream of hot air spraying all over her face. She subconsciously opened her eyes, only to see the body in front of her broken into two halves, and then it fell heavily to the ground with blood spurting out, revealing a handsome red-haired man behind it. He was holding a weapon that was shining with golden light, his face full of surprise, and he found that his gaze seemed a little embarrassed. "Oh, sorry." Antonio scratched his head a little embarrassedly. "This is the first time I use this. I didn't expect it to be so powerful, a little too violent." Lin Fan knocked the other strong man unconscious neatly, and when he turned his head, he saw that the blood was too much next to him, and he turned his eyes away with disgust, and didn't want to look at it anymore. Time went back a little to the Noah's control room earlier. Judging from the feedback from the other 4 drones, the plants on this planet are growing wildly, and they seem to have autonomous perception and action capabilities, as well as extremely strong attack capabilities. The previous drone is likely to be scrapped. Animals should not be underestimated. I don't know if they are huge or for some other reason, but rats are as big as chickens, and cockroaches look like drones on Langsing. They look scary and ferocious, and they don't look like peaceful and happy creatures at all. If the dense green dots represent all these creatures, then that is definitely not the scene they want to see. There are obvious traces of human civilization here, and it doesn't seem to have been abandoned for too long. Sen Fangyuan frowned. According to the route of the Octopus manned spacecraft, the people on the planet were fine when they passed by here last time. Later, they went to the solar system, and it didn't take long to go back and forth. How could it suddenly become like this? Not even a single person can be seen. Could it be that the entire planet has been occupied by plants and animals? The botanists and zoologists on the Noah, as well as related and unrelated researchers, were called to the control room. They were speechless when they saw the carnivorous rabbits and blood-sucking plants. Who has seen such a thing? But even if you haven't seen it, you know that these extremely aggressive creatures are not good things. This is completely different from the gentle and harmless weak creatures on Langsing. Okay. Even the sea surface is blue and dark, and there are always rolling white bubbles, which look like the dead of poisoning. In this case, is there any need for them to explore? Otherwise, it is better to be safe and leave. CUI Yan supports leaving. Although there is no gain, there is no risk. There are so many green dots that you can't even see a living person. What's the point of going down? What useful information can flowers and plants provide them with? It's impossible that animals have mutated to have the function of talking, right? But the first mate Dupu Bennett, who is in charge of the research and exploration part, thinks that since the Octopus Man said that this planet was very similar to Langsing before, and now it has suddenly become like this, with no living people, as if it has been killed in seconds, shouldn't they explore it to prevent Langsing from encountering the same situation as a lesson? Jin Sichin is also a supporter, but his reason is different. The people here are so similar to Langsing. How much is the contingency of biological evolution to create such a different race? Will they also have a relationship with Noah? The purpose of Noah's coming to space is, first, to capture interstellar information in a timely manner, and at the same time, to explore new star technology and energy, feedback to Langsing technology, and speed up development. Second, to find Noah, trace the roots of Langsing, and also look forward to the support of higher technology. This is also the biggest reason why Jin Sichin succeeded in borrowing the ship from Nachao. Third, I want to see if I can find the Chaos Pearl in major new stars or space travel to help Kyan Leo survive the catastrophe of life and death. 1 and 3 all mean to let nature take its course, and only finding Noah is a clear-cut theme, although it is more aimless. According to the words of Noah's own people, it is a journey to find mother. But the technology carried by Noah is indeed the highest civilization technology they know, and it is also the most desired. If you can find it. Lin Fan did not participate in the vote, she just wanted to be an emotionless tool. Until a drone accidentally photographed a team of people fighting with mutant plants, and all kinds of superpowers could not suppress the offensive of the mutant plants. Their clothes were stained with blood, and they could not hold on for long. Seeing living people shocked everyone, and finally decided to go down and contact the natives. Ask what happened to this planet. If you can, help where you can. Since the natives have used their powers, ordinary crew members are naturally not suitable for the first round of exploration. This task naturally falls on Lin Fan, who has the highest combat power. She has extraordinary personal abilities, lightning, and a mecha to support her. She is so strong. When such a person goes to explore a new star, the people on the Noah will not worry about her safety at all. After all, if they really can't beat her, they can always turn into a mecha and fly back directly. The loss can be completely ignored. Antonio, the only two mecha people who came uninvited, naturally did not escape the fate of being drafted. There is no free food on the Noah. Considering the situation, the two of them rushed to the logistics to get two of the largest rescue emergency kits, stuffed them into Lin Fan's space bracelet, and ran directly to the hatch without time to prepare other things carefully. They headed towards the drone at full speed in their mecha bodies. 10 minutes later, Xingqian and Apollo landed, and only saw a piece of burnt dead branches and rotten leaves and human remains. Obviously, they were a step too late. Lin Fan took off the mecha state and felt it. As expected, the air here was breathable, and she could sense obvious spiritual energy. It was not as abundant as the current Langsing, but it was obviously there. No wonder the natives had superpowers. The drone fell to the ground, and was still transmitting positioning signals unremittingly. Its flight function had been suspended due to the attack just now, but the camera function seemed to be intact, but it needed to be held by hand. Lin Fan picked it up and roughly inspected it, and estimated that it should be able to be repaired when brought back to the spaceship, so she stuffed it into the space. What should we do now? Antonio asked excitedly. Looking at the battle situation, the humans should have won. Lin Fan took out the two emergency backpacks from the space, threw one to Antonio who had taken off his mecha, and motioned him to look at the burnt remains, so there should be people alive, and they won't have gone too far. Let's look for them nearby. Okay. Antonio agreed immediately and took 2 quick steps closer, rubbing his hands and flatteringly said, "Well, Lin, I'm still short of a handy weapon. Can you lend me one?" Chapter 832 Antonio's S movement. Antonio ran away secretly at first, and no one in the entire Line League knew about it. When he was discovered, the Noah had already started the space jump program and could not be terminated. If he continued to stay outside the ship, even the Mecha Apollo would inevitably get lost in the space turbulence. Lin Fan and him were friends after all, and they could even be considered good friends. How could he bear to see a living person go to die? In addition, Ova's assist directly ordered the person to be released. Antonio just ran into the control room with a smirk on his face, and the spacecraft jumped to Pluto. It was so far away, and it was not realistic to send the person back, so he took him with him. In any case, having one more top combat force would definitely be beneficial to the Noah. As for the situation where Langsing's strength would decline due to one less mecha, I'm sorry they were not able to do it. When placing a communication satellite near Pluto, Sen Fangyuan left a few words about Antonio's placement. It was just that I didn't know how long it would take for Land Crossing to receive the message. The incident happened suddenly. When Antonio came, he brought nothing except his combat uniform and the mobile phone in his pocket, not even a pair of pants. Fortunately, the Noah was rich in supplies and even had tailors in the talent pool, so he didn't have to go naked. As for the position, he was just a service specialist under the name of Captain Lin Fan, and hung out with her. But no one really expected him to do anything serious, just hope that, when he encountered trouble, he could follow Lin Fan. In terms of weapons, the Noah equipped Antonio with the latest model of energy gun. It was a product that was modified and upgraded with the technology stolen from the Grow gun. Each crew member had one. Antonio was very satisfied at first. After all, due to the convenience of Country P, he had done a lot of research on firearms and his marksmanship was not bad. But once he accidentally saw Lin Fan holding a magic weapon and asking Jin Sichin how to use it specifically, he could no longer suppress his inner turmoil. Because Lin Fan and Jin Sichin, the two great treasures, went to heaven, the Special Affairs Office wanted to take out all the capital and give them. As the saying goes, a poor family is rich on the road, and whoever has children will feel sorry for them. Of course, the biggest share is still on Lin Fan's side. After all, as an office staff, Jin Sichin spends most of his time on the Noah and does not have to face danger directly. After Lin Fan accepted Quan Yin Dang's private customization, he did not expect that the Special Affairs Office would openly give him a lot. Needless to say, he was moved and directly waved his hand and put all into the space. What? You ask why such good things are not provided to everyone on the ship? ZHU Kunjin, the director of the Special Affairs Office, must have cried poor when he heard it. The landlord's family does not have surplus food. They have only saved this little for so many years. After giving it to their two children, there is not much left at home. Besides, you can't use it, even if I give it to you, because most of the magic tools need supernatural powers to control. Since it is called a magic tool, there are naturally many good things, but Lin Fan is not very familiar with how to use it. When he got the time, he naturally went to consult the only two people in the Special Affairs Office, the senior Jin Sichin. You said there are also senior brothers Lezing Yuan King and Kai and Su. These two honorary bosses of the Special Affairs Office are really powerful. They are so powerful that normal people will automatically avoid them when they just think of their names. Why did they go on the Noah? Lin Fan still didn't dare to ask. Oh, who dares to go to them? Antonio originally spent several months in the School of Superpowers. In addition to the direct improvement of his H literacy level, he also learned the basic control of superpowers. The people in the school don't teach directly, but they don't prohibit communication between students. Antonio is not really stupid. He watched and listened, and he knew a little about the basic control of superpowers. He was just getting started, but not yet at the level of mastery. He had been planning to take it slow, but the news that Lin Fan was going to explore the stars broke his plan. How could he miss such a good opportunity? He followed him to 800. When he really boarded the Noah, he was bored and began to sigh about his previous supernatural learning. When he saw Lin Fan and the others fiddling with magic tools related to supernatural powers, the ants in his heart began to crawl out again. The things sent by the Special Affairs Office were all good things that only needed to be simply activated to use. Considering that Lin Fan and Jin Sichin had a general grasp of elemental supernatural power control, Lin Fan had the origin of the world tree and had mastered the external lightning control. It was easy for her to use the energy of the world tree in her body to activate the magic tools. Jin Sichin originally had supernatural talents and was well informed. She had been influenced by the Special Affairs Office since she was a child, and she had already mastered the knowledge related to supernatural powers. Although he didn't have time to study systematically at the Supernatural Academy later, he took advantage of the convenience of being closer to the world tree in the Nvchao cave, and he also reached the entry level of elemental supernatural powers by self-study. Antonio was the same. He already had the energy of the world tree. Although he had only mastered the control a little bit, he was still a long way from being able to perform individual moves, but it was more than enough to activate these magic weapons. He looked at this, and then at that. He liked them all, but unfortunately they were not his. He was crying in his heart. Why didn't he join the Special Affairs Office earlier? He wanted this, and he wanted that. What should he do? He couldn't open his mouth for no reason. Lin Fan didn't know Antonio's entanglement. He looked at it and put it away on the spot after reading it. So why was Antonio anxious? On the one hand, he did have the personality factor of loving adventure and not willing to be ordinary. On the other hand, he also wanted to encounter a situation where he could legitimately ask Lin Fan to borrow a weapon to use. For example, now, the excuse had been repeatedly considered. The energy gun was a hot weapon after all. If it suddenly broke down and the energy was used up, he would still need a close-range cold weapon for self-defense. Lin Fan knew what he was thinking and took out a magic weapon that he had prepared long ago and threw it over. Antonio knew that this was a long sword made of gold. The blade was much wider than the ordinary H-type traditional sword, which reminded him of the broadsword on his Mecha. Gold has the characteristics of being able to crush everything in its path, and the sword was a weapon he was familiar with. Antonio was very happy, thinking that Lin Fan must have carefully selected it and left it for him. What he got was just a hilt the size of a portable flashlight, with a small dark gold gem inlaid on it. Antonio tried several times before he successfully injected energy into the gem and activated the blade. Looking at the golden blade, he had the illusion of holding a lightsaber in the Star Wars movie. Thinking about where he was, it was indeed interstellar, and Antonio became even more excited. Carrying a large first aid kit, he rushed quickly as if nothing happened, hoping to find the target person as soon as possible. I don't know if it was because they had just experienced a cleanup, or maybe it was because the ground in the city was all irrigated with concrete, so there were fewer mutant plants in the area where they were, and it looked relatively safe overall. Lin Fan and the others' headphones were still connected to the Noah. Sen Fangyuan asked them to disguise themselves as locals to investigate the situation, and not to expose the Mecha, unless the situation is critical. This is also easy to understand. Compared with the unknown alien forces, locals are of course easier to let down their guard and easier to investigate. Anyway, if someone suddenly said that they were aliens in front of Lin Fan and asked a bunch of questions, Lin Fan would definitely think that this person was a lunatic and would not want to pay any attention to him. Moreover, since they look so similar, why waste this advantage? After all, this is their first time exploring a new star, and everything should be done with caution and safety. Soon, after Antonio killed several blind mutant plants in a row, they saw the coerced girl. The touch is just right. No, how can Antonio, who is full of justice, bear it? He rushed up in a fit of excitement. Chapter 833, End of the World. Lan Bingru, whose face was covered in blood, had long been accustomed to life and death. Or perhaps it was because of her emotions towards the perpetrators. When faced with the bloody scene, her eyelashes only trembled slightly, as if nothing had happened. In contrast, Lin Fan and Antonio, the two rescuers, could not hide their discomfort. Although they had killed countless Gross that was in battle, and their forms were quite different. Now that they had just arrived at Nova, they had to kill a native with their own hands. It was not like killing a chicken, so they still felt a little burdened. Although this guy was not a good thing, neither of them was a person who killed indiscriminately, and they did not think of killing them right away. Antonio sighed, feeling guilty. He overestimated the opponent's strength and underestimated the power of the sword. Who would have thought that the native with superpowers, who could kill mutant plants, was so fragile? He was also careless. After all, there is still a difference between humans and plants. How can you treat them like mutant plants and chop them right away? Killing plants only made him feel refreshed, but killing a person who was so similar to himself. The mistake had been made, and Antonio did not want to think about it anymore. He looked around and dragged a tattered advertising cloth to cover the stump. The excitement that was originally eager to try was completely cooled down at this time. After Lin Fan tied up the other person, he took out a bottle of water from his backpack and handed it to the girl sitting in the corner, intending to let her wash her face. Lan Bingru took the water ignorantly, opened the bottle cap and smelled it. After confirming that it was extremely precious drinking water, her eyes lit up. Before the end of the world, water seemed to be an extremely common thing in life. Washing hands, taking a bath, drinking or other uses, almost no one took this non-renewable resource seriously. They were not unable to pay the water bill, so what was there to be stingy about? But when the end of the world came, the environment changed, and the animals and plants mutated. Although the water resources did not turn into monsters, they also deteriorated, and could no longer provide guarantees for human survival. At this time, people deeply realized how important these resources that they never cared about on weekdays were. Water, electricity, power, energy. When all these disappeared and could not be bought with any money, all mankind seemed to have returned to primitive society in an instant. Fortunately, supermarkets, shopping malls, Manufacturers and other places still have a large amount of available finished product resources. People who were anxious were afraid of falling behind others, so they started fighting by snatching. Before they found the mutant plants, they started killing each other. Not long after, the plants began to mutate, and the living space of human beings was greatly squeezed, making it even more difficult to survive. At the beginning of this chaotic end of the world, morality and laws became the most useless things. Without these constraints, all evil was like the devil released, making the already difficult world unrecognizable. After dozens of days of water, electricity, and communications were completely cut off, the upper level instructions finally reached the local area and sent the local garrison to intervene in stability maintenance. But there were too many people and too few generals, and it was difficult to take care of everything. They could only fight and retreat, and gather with those who could still gather to the newly formed security base. At this time, most of the old, weak, sick and disabled died, and those who survived basically had some skills. Some people were willing to leave with the garrison and go to the base for peace of mind. Some people were ambitious and occupied the mountain as kings and became local emperors. Later, animals also mutated, and the mutated plants became more and more powerful. Nature has carried out round after round of survival of the fittest on humans. The tiny human beings have finally established several relatively stable safety zones, gathered together the armed forces, and firmly blocked the invasion of these mutant animals and plants outside the walls. There are many people in the safety zone, and it is impossible to feed all the people for nothing, so there is a task system. Do things in exchange for living space and rations. In order to resist mutant animals and plants, scientists have not stopped their efforts and have developed a drug that can enhance human physique. It can greatly increase the limit of human ability, stimulate human potential, and become stronger. It was thought that after the increase in the national system, the situation of fighting mutant creatures could be quickly reversed. Unexpectedly, good fortune never comes alone, and disaster never comes alone. After drinking the drug, many people also began to mutate, became unconscious, only knew to drink blood and eat meat, just like the legendary zombies. Everything happened suddenly, and the safety zone was unable to respond in time. People bit each other, and people passed on the disease to each other, and it became a hell on earth for a while. Unfortunately, these mutants are extremely difficult to deal with, and cannot be killed without beheading. But their relatives still had hope. They couldn't bear to see their loved ones being killed. After a series of attempts to stop them, the loss was imaginable. Fortunately, the results of mutations were not all bad. Many people also developed superpowers. As long as these superpowers were used properly, they could cause a fatal blow to mutant creatures. So after the death toll increased sharply, and the efforts to stop and kill mutants were reduced, all the people in the safe zone evacuated quickly. The mutants followed instinctively. After most of the mutants left the city, the people in the safe zone circled back to the city and sealed the city gate. The mutants who were left inside were naturally not to be feared. But the disadvantages still exist. After humans who have drunk the physical enhancement potion are harmed by mutant animals and plants, the mutant bacteria will merge with the genetic advantages that have been forcibly enhanced, and the probability of becoming a zombie is close to 100%. Even if the healing superpower intervenes, it cannot be completely spared due to the time and strength of the ability. The days that followed were spent in dull and difficult times. The supplies in the safe zone are getting less and less, and people's social classes are also becoming more and more different due to their abilities. No one shouted for equality anymore, and there were more people in high positions and power. The safe zone gradually became a one-man show for the person in charge. Compared with the local tyrant outside, the former was more formal, and in comparison, ordinary people could still have a way to survive. And those with superpowers, in order to survive better and have a higher status, had to go out of the city to do tasks. After all, the power of a single person was limited, and there were too many mutant creatures outside, so most people went out in small teams. Although they got less, they were safer. Most people still cared more about their lives, and would rather have less things, just for a safe life. Life was not getting better or worse. It seemed that there was hope, but there was no end to the road under their feet. The quality of the safe zone depended on the ideas of the person in charge. Some were getting better, while others were getting worse, making people living in them feel unbearable. Ordinary people had to endure it, but those with some ability thought about whether to leave and move to a better safe zone to continue their lives. Lan Bingru was in such a small team. They all lost their loved ones in the chaos. Although they knew the situation was not good, they still had hope in their hearts. So in the face of the terrible environment, when someone proposed to leave, most people agreed with this idea. It is said that the person in charge of the Penang base in the southeast is lenient to his subordinates and the living conditions are much more comfortable. They are all superpowered people, and they may be more comfortable if they go there. Maybe they can also find their lost relatives. They made a risk assessment and knew that the road should be more difficult, but with so many people together and Lan Bingru's healing superpowers, they should be able to arrive safely. It was okay at first, but as they continued to go deeper, the crisis was far more than expected. Without navigation and professional guides, it is easy to get lost just by looking at the map. Once they got stuck in the densely vegetated wilderness, their once confident superpowers were completely unable to resist. Lan Bingru's healing superpowers continued to be cast until she could no longer use a drop of water. Everyone regretted it, but it was too late. As a nurse, Lan Bingru was habitually protected by her teammates. She watched the captain and teammates fall one by one, being pierced by mutant plants, and sucked blood in front of her. She was so angry that she took out her self-defense dagger and wanted to fight with all her might, even if it was just to cut off a few leaves before she died. At this time, a big fireball passed over her and ignited the plants in front of her, and the roaring heat pushed her down. Lan Bingru watched the bodies of her teammates fall into the sea of fire, and the mutant plants wrapped around them were all buried with them. Chapter 834. Troubled Times. A bottle of water of more than 200 milliliters is nothing to Lin Fan, but to Lan Bingru, it is a supply that she has to work hard for half a day outside the city. The end of the world is difficult, but in terms of time, it has only been more than a year. The time for people to gain superpowers is even shorter. Most people have not even adapted to the various changes psychologically, and they are forced to assimilate themselves and seek a way to survive in the difficult world. It is easy to say that the fittest survive, but what can you do if you can't adapt? Those who have gained superpowers are better, and those who have not gained superpowers and can only survive in the inner city are better or even worse than pigs and dogs. Too many survivors are a burden to any base. Not everyone can get physical improvement potions. Those ordinary people who have fallen to the bottom in terms of physical fitness and other aspects are even worse than pigs in the pen. Although the base has daily maintenance work every day to give these ordinary people a way to survive, there are too many monks and too little meat, and exploitation is everywhere. In order to get a relatively stable job, even if the income from this job can barely make ends meet, it is not a big deal. Under the pressure of life, human nature is extremely evil. The upper echelons of the base where Lan Bingru is located seem to deliberately allow such internal friction to happen. Every day, bloody incidents occur one after another. In the early morning, there will always be bloody trucks leaving the city through the small gate in the north. The wife is not a wife, the son is not a son. What will the world look like when morality is degraded and rules collapse? No matter how people imagine, it is not 1/10,000th of the truth. Some people enjoy the power in their hands, while others are eager to leave. Psychics are all accidental products, and improving their abilities is not as easy as shown in movies and TV shows. Even at the beginning, it took a long time to learn how to use their abilities well and not hurt themselves. There is a crystal core in the brain of the zombie, but it is also newly mutated, very small, and grown together with a skull. If someone hadn't been persistent in searching, the thing would indeed have shown a different color from normal bones, like the pebbles on the tourmaline bracelet, and it might have really been missed. Since zombies have it in their brains, mutant animals should also have it, and so should plants. It's just that mutant animals that have existed for a long time are more difficult to fight than zombies, and of course their crystal cores are larger. Plants don't have brains, but it took a lot of effort to find similar crystals in the underground, at the root position. The stronger they are, the larger the crystal core and the darker the color. Now that I have the crystal core, it took some effort to figure out how to use it. Biting it will break my teeth, and swallowing it directly will cause my body to explode and die. It took a long time to study before I found a way to successfully absorb it. After comparing it, I found that the speed of improving my ability by absorbing crystal cores is much faster than simply improving my skill proficiency by killing monsters on a daily basis, so crystal cores have become a scarce resource again. The upper echelons of the base control crystal cores and use them as a means to control the superpowers. All superpowers must hand in a large base percentage of the crystal cores they bring back from missions outside the city, and there are usually only a few left for themselves. Crystal core resources are already scarce, and low-level superpowers can only produce a small piece as big as gravel. Although it is faster than improving yourself, it is not much faster. The top-level psychics with status and abilities have more resources, and they can upgrade faster, so they naturally improve faster. The more resources they get, the higher their status. The bottom level psychics can only save crystal cores bit by bit and improve their proficiency through hard work. But the improvement of proficiency is linked to physical fitness, and the materials needed for physical fitness are exchanged for tasks and crystals. These materials are rich compared to ordinary people, but a few people in the team share them, which is just enough to make ends meet. If you want to be extravagant, you have to think for a long time. The gap is widened. If you want to live a good life, in addition to working hard, there is another shortcut, relying on the upper level personnel. The upper level people in the base, whether they have superpowers or not, need followers. To put it bluntly, it is to sell themselves. The capable ones go around and sell their abilities, be thugs, be younger brothers, whatever you say. Even if they flatter the right people, the upper level ones will leak a little, which is better than their hard work. The incapable ones either sell their brains or their bodies. If you want to please, there is always a chance. There are quite a few people who choose this path, and the hierarchical differentiation of the base, which was originally divided by classes, has become stronger. Of course, there are also upright people who are unwilling to be vassals, like Lan Bingru's team, who are still proud and unwilling to sell their dignity. They would rather work hard and endure bit by bit. But as the situation changes, the power struggle becomes increasingly severe, and everyone is forced to stand in line. There is less and less space left for these low-level superpowers. The soldiers guarding the city gates are looking at her with more and more contempt. The supplies are getting tighter and tighter, and the treatment is deliberately forced, and Lan Bingru's former little sister has repeatedly come with the heart of the superior to persuade her to surrender. All these pressures make everyone unable to sleep and eat, and they can't do anything when they see the danger approaching. So, after finding out the general situation of other bases, these people who would rather break than bend fled. They wanted to start a new life in a base with a more relaxed environment with beautiful visions and hopes. But they didn't expect that they escaped from the base, but they didn't escape from these monsters. The monsters in the wild are much stronger and denser than those outside the city. Lan Bingru's thoughts were pulled away from her memories, and she silently screwed the bottle cap on. With the previous experience, she dared not be too optimistic about being rescued. The two people in front of her, the woman is pretty, the man is handsome, and they are dressed neatly, as if they were living before the end of the world. Although the back of the clothes is a little damaged, in this dilapidated and dirty end of the world, the two people are clean and seem to be glowing, with unique weapons and decisive actions. It doesn't take much thought to know that they are high-level psychics. Such people are always difficult to tell when they are angry or calm. Saving people and killing people are all in the blink of an eye. Thinking of the various things she had done as a high-level psychic in the base, Lan Bingru hurriedly forced a smile and said thank you as sincerely as possible. Thinking of her face covered with blood, which was unsightly, she mobilized the only remaining tray in her body, and a thin layer of water mist floated on her palm. She wiped her face and threw the blood stains on the ground beside her. Then she raised her head and smiled with her teeth showing. Communication is not a problem. The language of this planet was given by the octopus people when Land Crossing developed the translator. Although they were just passing by, they collected some information when they explored through satellites, including the language system. Fortunately, this planet has only one section, and the language system is single. At most, due to different regions, there are small accent differences similar to dialects, which do not affect daily communication. The difficulty of learning is greatly reduced. As early as the first day, when Noah set its goal to come here, the whole ship began to learn the language of this planet. Of course, they have translators, but the translators can only quickly translate the other party's language to the Langsing people. If the Langsing people want to communicate, they have to speak to the translator. After all, it is not as convenient as speaking by themselves. The more important reason is that they found that the language system of this planet is very close to the Langsing language system. To put it bluntly, it is easy to learn. Except for those who are engaged in scientific research. Even those who raise pigs on the spacecraft are idle. It's rare to have something to do, so they treat it as entertainment. Even those who don't like to study, thinking that one day in the future they can stand on the alien planet and talk fluently with aliens, they are also happy to work hard. Unfortunately, the plan can't keep up with the changes. When they arrived, the scene of the friendly visit did not appear, and people couldn't get off. Speaking of learning, Antonio is serious, and his progress is no worse than Lin Fan. He just doesn't want to be so tired. Who doesn't live a carefree life? He is. So as a social person, after the alien girl expressed her willingness to communicate, he took over the conversation for the slightly socially anxious Lin Fan. He smiled and bent down to express his concern. Hey, are you okay, sister? Chapter 835, Vigilance Collapses. Although Antonio had adjusted his words to try not to sound too aggressive, Lang Bingru still shrank back involuntarily. Seeing this, Lin Fan took a step forward, pushed Antonio aside, and stretched out his hand to Lang Bingru who was sitting on the ground. Can you get up? Lang Bingru found it hard to believe the kindness of strangers in the end times, but at this moment, she couldn't ignore the white hand, and could only reach out with fear. As soon as she stood up, she felt a chill on her chest. The front of the clothes, that had just been torn, was pulled by gravity, and slid to both sides, revealing a large piece of snow-white skin. Before Lan Bingru could scream, her eyes blurred, and her chest was covered tightly by a large piece of cloth. She reflexively looked at the red-haired man next to her, and found that he had already turned his head and walked away. My coat should be a little big for you, so just put it on for now. Lin Fan spread out the clothes he had casually pulled out of the space with both hands, and said to the blushing native girl. Lang Bingru quickly pinched the upper edge of her clothes, and thanked him with trembling lips. Don't be polite, change quickly, I'll help you block it, Lin Fan said, and turned around. Lang Bingru hurriedly took off the blood-stained torn clothes, and put on her coat. The woman in front of her turned her back indifferently, as if she was not worried at all that she would take the opportunity to do something. Looking at her clothes again, the material and tailoring can be seen to be very valuable. The red-haired man in the distance didn't even look at this side. If people with abilities like them really want to do something to her, why bother with all this effort? Anyway, she is powerless to resist. She probably stayed in hell for too long, and she is always used to guessing everything in terms of evil. Lang Bingru felt numb in her heart, wanting to believe, but afraid. Does pure kindness really still exist? Lang Bingru clenched the water bottle in her hand, and her guard was gradually disintegrating. Those two people have good looks, abilities, and their supplies and weapons seem to be high-end. What can they want from her? She should stop worrying about trivial matters. Lang Bingru smiled self-deprecatingly. It was really tiring to live in this chaotic world for so long. The teammates who depended on each other for life and death were gone. It was hard for her not to yearn for this simple and long-lost kindness. Well, let's take a gamble. The worst case scenario is just her own life. Lin Fan turned around slowly after hearing the sound of swallowing water. He saw that the girl was drinking water in a relaxed manner. She was no longer tense. Do you want more? Seeing that the bottle of water was almost empty, Lin Fan took out another bottle from his bag. Seeing that the other party waved his hand hurriedly, he thought for a while, and took out a box of canned meat, and handed it over. Food, do you want it? Lang Bingru was stunned for a moment, and her smile became even bigger. If you really want to do something to me, you won't waste such good supplies, right? Right? The supplies on the Noah are all Langsing special. Even the canned food in the first aid kit is much better than ordinary canned meat. Lin Fan opened the can, and the rich aroma of meat wafted out. Lang Bingru looked at the pink meat that filled the iron box in front of her. Although it was only a small piece, it was like a long lost feast for someone like her who had been in financial difficulties for a long time. It was worth it. Even if she died, it was worth it to have such a good meal before she died. Her teammates never had such a bite until they died. Antonio turned back slowly and watched the native girl rudely use her hands to dig the canned meat into her mouth and swallow it with tears. She poked Lin Fan with her arm. Lin Fan glanced at him and said nothing. The two stood quietly aside and watched Lan Bingru eat. After wolfing down the meat, her emotions were almost vented, and Lan Bingru finally regained her sanity. Looking at the two people in front of her who were always polite, she became more and more certain that they would not harm her. After a few more awkward and meaningless thanks, the two sides finally left this slightly bloody place and started normal communication by exchanging names. From Lan Bingru's story, Lin Fan and the others easily found out the whole story that led to her current situation. Although the cause of the apocalypse was not mentioned, the overview of the major bases, the basic information of superpowers and the degree of development were all roughly understood, and a lot of information that was not mentioned could even be inferred from it. In the superpower world, the identities of the two can be easily spoofed. As for the subordinate bases, Lang Bingru took the silence of the two people who knew nothing as the contempt of masters. Then what are you going to do next? Are you going to Penang base? Antonio asked, looking at Lan Bingru's pitiful face. He felt that this girl was not easy. She looked like a juicy flower, with a delicate body and a soft body that could be easily pushed down, but she could insist on being self-reliant in such a wild apocalypse. In her story, there were many times when she could get a better life by relying on men. Lang Bingru choked. Of course she wanted to go, but her teammates all died on the way. By herself, let alone Penang, she couldn't even leave this area. A nanny fighting alone is no different from an ordinary person. If you still want to go, Lin Fan saw her embarrassment and said, we'll take you there. Before he finished speaking, Lan Bingru straightened up in surprise and looked at him. We don't have anything to do anyway. Antonio smiled and put his elbow on Lin Fan's shoulder, posing in what he thought was a handsome pose. I'll accompany you for a trip. They were like two blind men with strong martial arts on this planet, who just needed a pair of non-threatening eyes as a guide. Lan Bingru's happiness was beyond words, and she almost knelt down to cut out of the two of them. Just to go to Penang, many problems still need to be solved. We need a means of transportation. Lin Fan sighed in a low voice. She looked around. The streets were empty, and she didn't even see a bicycle. According to Lang Bingru, they were still far away from Penang. Just relying on their own two legs, it would take who knows when. There is also navigation. No, map. I'm not bragging, I can recognize maps. Antonio patted his chest confidently and showed off to Lan Bingru. I used to be a travel blogger. Extreme challenge and wilderness survival were also common. I can recognize maps easily. But the premise is that there is a map. Map? Lang Bingru was a little melancholy again. It turns out that our team had a map, but it disappeared in the sea of fire with the captain. Lin Fan patted her shoulder and turned to discuss with Antonio. Why don't we go to the bookstore to look for it, or the stationery store or something like that? Maybe there will be a map. This looks like a small town. If you spend some time looking for it, you may get unexpected gains. What about this person? Antonio raised his chin and pointed to another villain who was knocked unconscious by Lin Fan and thrown aside. The man had been silent all the time, and the three of them almost forgot about him. Lin Fan frowned. It's troublesome to take him with you, and if you don't, no need to take him. Lan Bingru said with a cold face and unusual determination. It's not just the two of them who saved me. The other few people went to look for resources together, and they should be back soon. This is a cleared safe zone, and he won't die in a short time. Even if he dies, it's not a pity. You said someone went to explore the way. Lin Fan suddenly turned back and asked her. Yes. Lang Bingru was a little nervous. Did I say it too late? They wouldn't go to explore the way on foot, would they? Antonio asked with a smile. Yes, there is a car. Lang Bingru also reacted at this time. Lin Fan smiled freely. Look, our luck is here. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 836 Counterattack. A silver van was driving fast on the winding road in the middle of the charred fields. Almost there, Zhang Qiang leaned half his buttocks on the co-pilot seat, kept turning the knob, and listened to the intermittent distorted voice coming from the radio. Listen. The signal is received, which proves that we are close to the base. In half a day, at most one day, we can reach the Lincheng base. He was the villain who was knocked unconscious by Lin Fan at the beginning, but was lucky to save his life in the end. In the past, he often complained that the name his parents gave him was too mediocre. Strong? What's strong about him? Height, appearance, family background, education. Nothing is strong. Later, when the end of the world came, he thought that the day of his turn was coming, but the superpowers he finally gave birth to were not as strong as others. Wood-related superpowers are not even as useful as water-related superpowers. He didn't want to waste his life in the boring work of promoting the growth of grain seedlings. Seeing that these high-damage superpowers of the fire and gold systems could easily enjoy the good life and be surrounded by women, he could not suppress his desire. So he tried his best and followed a high-level fire superpower brother. The life of serving the master was not as easy as he thought. His conscience was tortured and he faced more crises. But he also gained more. Compared with waiting for the base to distribute supplies honestly, once he got used to plundering, collecting ownerless things to get a good life, who would still want to live the kind of stingy life before? As for conscience, since everyone is like this, why should he think so much? Today's wine is drunk today, and the big brother will support it if the sky falls. Who would have thought that the big brother, who has always been invincible and ranked first in the base, would be reduced to ashes as soon as he met those two men and women of unknown origin? This is not an adjective. It is reduced to ashes in the physical sense. And he was still alive. He would never complain about the name his parents gave him again. Maybe his luck was due to the word strong. At this point, he had no idea what was going on. He was still imagining having sex with the pretty girl he had saved on the road 1 second ago. The next second he opened his eyes and saw his eldest brother and two other brothers who were searching for supplies standing in front of their big jeep, arguing with two strange men and women with their backs to them. And the pretty girl they had saved was hiding behind the two men, obviously seeking shelter. Damn. Are you trying to steal the girl? Exclamation mark. Zhang Qiang was so angry that he wanted to rush up, but he found himself tied up and unable to move. He could only yell with his neck erect. Brother, get them. It was natural to fight when there was a disagreement. The domineering eldest brother confidently stretched out his hand, and suddenly a huge flame shot out from his palm, and he fiercely pounced on the man and woman opposite. This was his specialty. Whether it was for mutant plants or people, it had an immediate effect. Dare to offend him? Pay with your life. But the expected scene did not appear. The eldest brother's mouth just curled up, and he saw a golden light flashing on the opposite side. The flames were abounded, bringing with them a scorching wind, and submerged the three of them more violently. The people on both sides were not fire type, and were not immune to fire damage. They were instantly burned all over their bodies, screaming in pain, and rolling on the ground. The eldest brother was stunned. Could it be that the other party had a higher level fire ability? Stop. He wanted to pause and talk again, but found that the man had already stood in front of him. Sorry, you are late. He heard the other party say lightly. Slowly lowering his head, he saw that a golden object had pierced his left chest. Antonio really didn't mean it. If he really wanted to blame someone, he could only blame his highly sensitive physique. But those who kill will be killed by others, and this guy's death is not innocent. He put away the beam on the sword, let the guy fall to the ground, turned around and saw Lin Fan with an unhappy face. Look at what you have done. Lin Fan crossed his arms and raised his chin. Antonio passed by the two charcoal men lying on the ground and looking at the big jeep. I don't know if the firepower of this planet is stronger or the attack power of the moves that guy used is strong. Under the high damage that turned people into charcoal in seconds, the Jeep parked behind them naturally could not be spared. The shiny black paint just now was mottled. The frame looked okay, but the tires were all turned into a pool. Antonio scratched his forehead with his index finger and walked over to pull the car door. Maybe it's not broken inside. The tire can still be replaced. The handlebars were still hot. He used his sleeve to pad it and pulled it a few times before it opened. Hot air gushed out, and the glass of the car door instantly shattered into slag, and the front windshield also shattered. The interior, steering wheel and other plastic parts were all deformed due to the high temperature. Needless to say, the circuit must have been completely ruined. Obviously, Lin Fan's previous idea of borrowing a car was impossible to realize. Antonio was too active. When he attacked, Lin Fan wanted to convert the thunder in his palm into a shield to block the car, but it was too late. He only had time to protect the fuel tank from exploding. Antonio put the lightsaber handle back into the holster, smiled nonchalantly and walked back. My bad. I forgot about it. Forget it. Lin Fan didn't mean to pursue it and sighed lightly. Let's look for it again. There can't be only one car in such a small town, right? Yes. The boat will straighten out when the bridge comes. Antonio walked to Lin Fan in a flattering manner, pinching her arm left and right. With you here, it's not a problem to assemble a car now. I'm not worried at all. Lin Fan was afraid that he would say something bad, so he rolled his eyes at him and brushed away his itchy hand. They are all dead. Lang Bingru had already checked the 3 people on the ground during this gap. She remembered her identity and wanted to show as much usefulness as possible. There was still a strange smell of burnt in the air. Lin Fan's eyes swept across the 2 black shadows. He didn't want to eat barbecue for a while. Lang Bingru went to search the car again. There were still a lot of supplies that could be used. After asking Lin and Dan, she packed with a sharp look in her eyes and finally packed 2 huge packages, one on her back and one in her arms. Antonio saw that the 2 large packages were almost dragging Lan Bingru down, and he couldn't bear to go forward and take one, which made the girl grateful again. After the 3 of them packed up and prepared to find the car, Zhang Kaiang, who had been lying in the back and peeping, finally couldn't pretend to be dead anymore. Hey, boss. Take me with you. Take me with you. I'm useful and can do anything. He was tied up and thrown in this broken place alone, which looked like a death. Lan Bingru selfishly wanted this group of people to die here. But when she saw Lin and the others turned around, she followed without showing anything. In the end, Lin Fan still couldn't let Zhang Kaiang fend for himself here. Anyway, it didn't make any difference to them to take 1 or 2. If it really doesn't work, they can make another plan. Zhang Kaiang, who escaped, naturally thanked Antonio profusely and took the package from Antonio's hand and carried it on his shoulders. After knowing that they were looking for a car, he became even more active. He led 3 ignorant people to successfully find several cars and even found a lot of gasoline. After all, I followed the boss. I have more experience in finding supplies outside, so I have enough experience in finding things. After Zhang Kaiang praised himself, he carefully peeked at the boss's face. After finding that only Lan Bingru showed obvious disgust, he felt relieved. Although the car was found, it had been left for a long time, and coupled with the damage caused by mutant plants and animals, it could not be used directly. Lin Fan's universal repair skills came in handy. He took apart and patched up here and there, and it didn't take much effort to make a broken bread with complete functions. Although it is not as good looking as other cars and is a bit old, it looks very much like Land Crossing's Wuling magic car, and it has low fuel consumption. So the 4 of them spent a relatively peaceful night in the town and set off for the base the next day. I've been playing Genshin Impact recently, and I found that the state of the young master's transformation into a mecha, and the weapon, 2 sections of the sword connected to a spear, is similar to my setting. Is this a collision of ideas? Well, this is really not my intention. Although his game is earlier than my novel, I don't usually play games. In the past few years, I played more house building games like The Sims. It's really a coincidence. Some time ago, I was lying in bed at night and suddenly didn't know what to do, so I wanted to play a game and went to the store to look around. I was tired of ordering Airplane Chef, so I downloaded the Genshin Impact that was at the top. Speaking of which, I really don't know how to play it. I clicked wherever it was lit. The characters were messed up, the weapons were melted, and the stamina resin was used up. But when playing it alone, there is no rush, just have fun. Haha. I also get dizzy with 3D. I get dizzy after playing for a while, and it automatically prevents addiction. Hahaha. It's pretty good. I also found out that there is a world tree in it when watching the strategy video. I haven't reached there yet, so I don't know what it looks like, but in terms of the name, it's another coincidence. It feels like heroes think alike. Hahaha. I don't know if there are any kids playing this game, so I wanted to come up and talk about it. What a coincidence. Chapter 837 Lynching Base. Lynching Base was still a long way from the Penang base that Lan Bingru wanted to go to, but it was the nearest large base on their way, and also Zhang Qiang's home base. The reason for going there was not entirely because of Zhang Qiang's strong advocacy, but mainly because Lin Fan was eager to find a place where she could take a hot bath. She hadn't taken a bath for 3 days. Lin Fan rested her head on the rear window, looking at the dark and desolate wilderness outside and thinking. She didn't know if it was because of the mutation of the plants and animals on this planet, but she felt that there was always a faint stench in the air, as if there were mutated bacteria everywhere that were invisible to the naked eye. There were also various grey grass debris splashed out when killing mutated plants. Although Anton was the one who did most of the work, she was close to them, and was inevitably splashed by the juice and residues that burst out of some plants. She lifted the cloth at the collar and put it under her nose to smell it gently. It felt that even opening the window could not dispel the stench. Ugh. For Captain Lin, who had a slight obsession with cleanliness and was used to taking a bath before going to bed every day, this invisible mental damage was much stronger than ordinary physical damage. No. I have to take a shower quickly. Not to mention her, even Antonio, who claimed to be used to surviving in the wild, felt that the stench would enter his body through his mouth, and he spoke less. Lan Bingru and Zhang Qiang had long been accustomed to the hardships of the end of the world, and even fell into more embarrassing predicaments many times. Who of the combatants who faced wild monsters has not been covered with stinky juice? They didn't think about it at all. It was just that seeing that the boss was unhappy, the two acted more cautiously, fearing that they would become the emotional explosion point. Lan Bingru said nothing and tried to reduce her presence as much as possible. Zhang Qiang's way of being clever was just the opposite. He kept looking for various topics, hoping to make the boss laugh. So, when Lin Fan heard how good the lynching base would be for big guys like them, providing a good living environment, delicious food, comfortable housing, various powerful transportation tools, electricity, oil, handsome men and beautiful women, and saunas, he immediately decided to go there. Zhang Qiang was ecstatic. The supplies he had worked hard to save would not be taken away by others, and there were also the boss and his people. Lan Bingru would naturally not object. If Zhang Qiang was not still alive, it would be a good option for her to settle down in Lynching Base. It is better than her original base, although it is hard not to feel disgusted when seeing that guy. But Penang Base is better. It is the best base she knows so far. I heard that people living there are very happy. In the past few days, Lan Bingru has a deeper understanding of how good the tempers of the two bosses are, since the bosses have said that they will send her to Penang. She secretly glanced at Lin Fan, who was slumped in the back seat and had no desire to live and had no heirs at all. Then she would continue to be courageous and indulge this extravagant hope in her heart. The broken bread finally arrived at Lynching Base, pressing the red line of the oil gauge. The towering city wall reflected the metallic black of varying shades under the setting sun. Your wall. Antonio looked at the city wall that was welded and patched everywhere and was speechless for a while. Zhang Qiang flattered while holding the steering wheel. Time is tight. We were not originally a heavy industry city. It's good to be able to collect these steel plates to make an exterior wall protection. It's a bit ugly, but it's strong. Of course, it can't be compared with the base you two are in. We have a ghost base. Lin and the others silently complained in their hearts. I heard that the Zanjin base in the north, because it originally developed the metallurgical heavy industry, has a very beautiful exterior protection. It is all stainless steel color, and it is very thick, and even the welding lines are not obvious. Lan Bingru said. Yes, it's all about adapting to local conditions. Zhang Qiang agreed. Our metal industry is not strong here, but the entertainment industry is developed. It doesn't matter whether the exterior wall protection is ugly or not. Our base is full of lights, wine, and dancing. TSK, that's what a happy life is. Lincheng was originally an economically developed port tourist city. With money, materials, and a developed entertainment industry, it is natural to live a life of luxury. It is also one of the most famous places in the whole continent. Before the end of the world, I don't know how many people flocked to it. Oh. Lin Fan thought of the great city in Langsing, and became a little interested. He sat up a little, then I must see it carefully. Seeing this, Zhang Qiang talked more excitedly, spitting saliva. Hey, where are you from? Get off the car and be inspected. The guard at the city gate saw a strange car coming and thought there was more money to be made, so he deliberately walked over with an angry voice. You are blind. Zhang Qiang stepped on the brakes, put his left arm on the car window, and stuck his head out. Who are you talking to? He changed his humbleness in front of Lin and the others, and his whole momentum changed. His arrogant appearance reminded everyone that he was actually a villain. Oh, brother Qiang. The guard was also caught off guard. He hurriedly rubbed his hands and ran up, his face smiling like a chrysanthemum. Brother Qiang, why did you drive such a broken car back? Go out and drive that big jeep. What nonsense. Zhang Qiang was still very powerful when he was angry. He stopped the other party from looking into the car and said, hurry up and open the door for me. The guard glanced at the two beautiful women in the back seat and thought he understood, so he stepped back with a lewd look on his face. Okay, I'll open the door for you right away. Open the door, open the door. Brother Qiang is back. Antonio watched the car pass through the city gate. The guards on both sides bowed their heads and smiled at the two broken breads in a flattering manner. The car drove into the wide streets of the inner city and impeded all the way, and turned his head to look at the person in the driver's seat and smiled. I didn't expect you to be so powerful. The arrogance on Zhang Qiang's face immediately turned into cautious flattery. No, it's not me. It's the big brother I followed before. Lin Fan understood. He is the one who is helping the tiger, and he is just relying on his boss's prestige. But if the people in the base knew that the boss was gone, Zhang Qiang obviously thought of the consequences, and he said a series of good words, which basically meant that he wanted to follow the two of them. Antonio glanced back at Lin Fan and saw that she had a faint expression and smiled without saying anything. A person like Zhang Qiang is definitely not a good person. But if you say he is bad, TSK, he is not bad in the ordinary sense. He is just a cowardly lackey with a heart but no courage. Antonio thinks this person is not bad. He is not threatening, and he is smooth in doing things. Although he is not very shameless, he has saved them a lot of trouble along the way. He and Lin Fan are new here, and they are confused about many things for a while. It may be a good choice to have such a flexible person join. I just don't know what Lin Fan thinks. Maybe she will consider the position of Miss Lan. Well, let's talk about it later. When he first entered Lincheng, the appearance he saw was completely different from the luxury that Lin Fan imagined. Low-rise houses, dark environment, bare feet can be seen under many tattered tarpaulins. Hearing the sound of cars, some not-so-young women rushed out from the dark, wearing revealing dirty clothes, twisting their thin bodies, and posing in front of them. Is this what you call a developed entertainment industry? Lin Fan retracted her gaze and didn't want to look outside. The environment she grew up in made her unable to adapt to such a normalized entertainment industry. No, this is a slum where low-class people live. It's very dirty. You must not be polluted by these people. Zhang Qiang hurriedly explained. We are going to the center. The further inside, the better the environment. Please wait. Lin Fan's eyes passed over the dilapidated shanties on both sides and saw many thin people with listless expressions and despair. They are like this. She licked her lips, but didn't know what to say. Lan Bingru saw the worry on Lin Fan's face and comforted him. People at the bottom will be eliminated by nature. The end of the world is crueler than any competition system. So people are struggling to climb up. Those who can break free have left. These are the ones who have no way out. Zhang Qiang was silent for a rare moment. Yes, in this damn world, how many choices can there be? Chapter 838 I'm here. As Zhang Qiang said, the further you drive, the more prosperous it becomes. The streets are crowded with people, all laughing and smiling, as if they are not much different from Gao on Langsing. If Lin Fan had not witnessed the desolation outside the city with his own eyes, and had not just passed through the dilapidated poverty-stricken area, and landed here at the beginning, he might have thought that nothing had happened on this planet and everything was normal. Further ahead, in the direction of the towering high-rise buildings, the lights are even brighter, and the neon lights are flashing, making it difficult to connect everything in front of you with the end of the world. The illusion of luxury and extravagance reveals the madness before destruction. Zhang Qiang parked the car in front of a 3-story villa with familiarity. The villa occupies a large area, with a single floor of more than 400 square meters. Standing at the door, you can see the high-rise building with flashing lights not far away. There are not many villas in this community, and they are far apart. It's a pity that the original large area of green space has been cleared away, which looks monotonous and bleak. But judging from the wide road in front of the door, the shops, hospitals, schools and other public facilities on the roadside, the selling price will not be too low before the end of the world. Zhang Qiang ruthlessly drove out the several charming women who rushed out of the villa, and took them to choose rooms in a servile manner. He also neatly packed up the things left by the original owner. When Lin Fan took a comfortable shower, changed into the clean clothes in the space bracelet and went downstairs, Antonio was already sitting at the big table in the restaurant. Hot food was already on the table. "Hey, are you here?" Antonio looked up and greeted. "Come on, Miss Lan's cooking skills are really good." Lan Bingru, with slightly wet hair, just came out of the kitchen with dishes, and smiled at Lin Fan. "Sister Lin, if you don't mind, please try my cooking." Zhang Qiang appeared from nowhere, dragged a chair in front of Lin Fan and flattered. "Sister Lin, sit down. Go wash up quickly." Lin Fan covered her nose and sat down. "This smell is really strong." Yes. Zhang Qiang quickly stepped back a few steps, explaining with a smile. "Just now I was afraid that you were hungry, so I helped Miss Lan find the ingredients. I'll go wash them now, and you all have a good meal." After saying that, he ran away. Fearing that the smell on his body would make Lin Fan unhappy, he chopped him with a sword. Lin Fan looked at the food on the table. The raw materials looked different from those on Langsing, and she couldn't even name them, but most of them were meat and vegetables fried in oil, and the staple food looked like pasta. Seeing Antonio eating enthusiastically, he shouldn't make any mistakes. Although she wasn't hungry, she couldn't help but want to try something new. As for the food on a strange planet, isn't it the same as experiencing the various local characteristics when traveling? Besides, he had to hide it in front of ordinary people, so he picked up the fork beside him, put a bite into his mouth neatly, and gave a thumbs up to Lan Bingru's expectant eyes. "Yeah, it's delicious." Lan Bingru smiled so hard that her teeth were not visible, and went back to the kitchen. Antonio raised his head from the plate and asked with a smile, "Is it really delicious or not?" It was no secret that Lin Fan had no sense of taste. If she really thought it was delicious, it would be a great joy. "Hey." Lin Fan took another fork of vegetables. "You said it was good, so what's the problem with me saying it was delicious? You can show off in front of girls, but I can't be a good person." Antonio was a bit of a natural playboy. He had a good look and a good personality, which might be related to the education he received since childhood. He was particularly, how to say it, gentlemanly, or considerate, and it was easy for girls to have a good impression. But to say he was a scumbag, it was not to that extent. I didn't see him pouring special feelings into anyone, and if the other party had a misunderstanding, he would directly explain it. Everyone was clear from beginning to end, and it was not considered a deception. You can't say that it's wrong for him to be gentle to girls, right? In his own words, he is romantic but not vulgar. Jin Sichin told Lin Fan to stop thinking about it. They are all adults, and emotional matters are consensual, so outsiders should not interfere. Besides, Antonio looks detached, but he is actually very capable and his character is pretty good. If he hadn't shown up when Zhugang was attacked, Zhugang would have become a ruin. He also exposed his mecha because of this. Lin Fan thought about it. That's right, she is not his mother. Why should she worry about those things? As long as Antonio doesn't cause any trouble, why can't he be gentle to other girls? What are you saying? Antonio shook his fork with a look of disapproval. I didn't show it. You are born with this personality. Lin Fan dragged out his words. I know. Eat yours quickly and describe it to me. What it tastes like. Lang Bingru brought the last plate of food to the table and saw the two of them laughing and chatting while eating. The relaxed atmosphere reminded her of her friends before the end of the world. Why are you standing? Lin Fan saw her standing in front of the table with a plate in her hand, motionless, with nostalgia on her face, and reached out to push Antonio. Quick, take it. Let Xiaolan rest. Antonio had already stood up and reached out. Do you want me to say more? Lang Bingru quickly put down the plate, touched her face. There were no tears, and hid a smile. Sorry, no more food, right? Antonio sat down nonchalantly and said to her with a smile, then you should sit down quickly. You have been busy for so long. Lang Bingru was a little at a loss, crossing her clothes with her hands, and looked at Lin Fan again. How could she sit at the same table with the big guys? It was too disrespectful. Sit down and eat together. Lin Fan waved at her. We eat together on the road. Don't be restrained. We are all easygoing. Lang Bingru saw it, bit her lip, and sat down obediently, carefully asking them how it tasted. After getting a positive answer, she sat more firmly. Lin Fan curiously asked about the cooking methods of these dishes. Lang Bingru answered in detail. Antonio made jokes, and the atmosphere at the table gradually became harmonious. Zhang Qiang cleaned himself up as quickly as possible and ran back. Sister Lin, brother An. He stood at the table without sitting down, with his hands folded in front of his lower abdomen, slightly bent over, and smiled at them. Antonio glanced at Lan Bingru, who looked normal, and invited people to sit down. You sit down too. You have worked hard these days. I dare not. Zhang Qiang said he dared not, but sat down quickly, but his seat was a little distance away from Lin Fan and Lan Bingru, so he didn't dare to sit next to them. Zhang Qiang's arrival seemed to interrupt a certain rhythm, or perhaps it affected Lan Bingru's mood, and no one spoke at the table for a while. He hurriedly stuffed a few mouthfuls of food in panic and asked carefully, Sister Lin, brother An, now that we are in the city, what are your plans? What plans could Antonio and Lin Fan have? They just wanted to find a place to take a shower. There is no personnel ties here, and they can leave at any time. Zhang Qiang had an expression of expected expectation, hesitated for a while, and still spoke. Penang is a long way, and we need to prepare a lot of things. Cars, supplies, routes, etc. Exchange and planning will take some time. Then, Lin Fan and Antonio looked at each other. Do they have to do all this? She had never done it before. Don't worry, I will prepare these. Zhang Qiang promised confidently. Everything in this villa can be cleaned and exchanged. You two can go around the city these days and treat it as sightseeing. I'm not bragging, the entertainment industry here is really good. Now that you are here, it would be a pity not to take a look. Yes, now that you are here. Lin Fan nodded. She had to get the achievement of being here before she could leave. She looked at Antonio's interested face and thought, I hope there won't be any trouble. Chapter 839 Zhang Qiang's Hope. The next day, Lin Fan slept until noon before getting up. He walked down the stairs slowly and found Antonio sitting on the sofa, looking down and playing something. Zhang Qiang was also there. Aren't you busy? She asked curiously as she walked down slowly, holding the handrail. Zhang Qiang took a few quick steps and smiled at her in front of the stairs. I thought about it carefully. You are all new here and are unfamiliar with Lin Sheng. I'm afraid that it will waste a lot of time to find a place where you can have fun, which will inevitably affect your mood. I'd better take you around first before I deal with those trivial matters. As a professional lackey, he is very familiar with this routine. Not to delay you? Lin Fan looked at the restaurant and Lan Bingru just came out with breakfast. Sister Lin, do you want to eat your breakfast now? Lin Fan did not refuse and walked over directly. It doesn't matter if it's early or late for my little thing. Zhang Qiang followed and flattered. After calming down from the great joy of getting rich last night, he thought that instead of taking all the property of the former boss and following the two bosses to a strange base, it would be better to cultivate in a place he was familiar with. After all, he was familiar with Lin Cheng, whether it was the upper or lower levels, and all kinds of channel figures, he was familiar with them, and it would be stronger to play his own advantages, right? If he didn't think about it, it would be fine. The more he thought about it, the stronger the feeling became. Zhang Qiang didn't sleep all night, thinking about various entertainment projects that might suit the boss's taste. With the abilities of these two, wouldn't his brother Qiang's status rise a few more times? Once the beautiful dream started, it couldn't be stopped. At this time, he had completely integrated himself into the new organization, and had never thought about the possibility that the boss would not take him to play. Lin Fan didn't care, and began to taste her first alien breakfast. Antonio also ran over happily, describing the taste in an exaggerated manner. Lan Bingru, on the other hand, pulled the corner of her mouth contemptuously, turned away and didn't want to look at Zhang Qiang anymore. After eating and drinking, Zhang Qiang respectfully opened the door and let the three people get on a brand new off-road vehicle. As the engine sounded, Antonio was itching to do something. Speaking of which, your entertainment industry, is it open in the morning? Lin Fan asked, looking at the sun rising in the sky. In her impression, aren't the sex industries more fun as the night goes on and rest during the day? Is this the difference between the planets? Of course. Zhang Qiang introduced proudly. Lincheng was known as the happy city before the end of the world. Here, there are all kinds of fun things you can think of or not. And it's open 24 hours a day, all year round. That taste. Antonio, who was sitting in the passenger seat, saw Zhang Qiang's expression gradually becoming obscene, and coughed twice to remind him. Then I have to see it carefully. Lin Fan's deep curiosity was aroused again. When she was on Langsing, she had the idea of exploring this kind of place. It was nothing but pure curiosity, wanting to see what it was like inside. But she never had the chance to realize it. Now that she has come to an alien planet, she can broaden her horizons. Zhang Qiang glanced at Lin Fan from the rearview mirror, and saw that Lin Fan looked normal, and didn't look angry, so he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the new and old masters are good, and he should be more careful. The car drove along the wide road and soon stopped in front of the tallest building. We are here, this is it. Zhang Qiang introduced to the other three people, the largest entertainment venue in Lincheng Base, Cheyenne Weishan. A doorman had already come to greet them cleverly, and Zhang Qiang resumed his arrogant look, swaggering and scolding the doorman, and respectfully led the few people in. The three looked up at the towering building, about 20 stories high, with a glass facade and tall neon tubes everywhere, which did not stop flashing during the day. A sweet aroma overflowed from the spacious revolving glass door, and the door was covered with thick scarlet carpets, and there were many golden and shiny decorations. If Zhang Qiang hadn't said it, Lin Fan would have thought it was a high-end hotel, or the kind that the top local tyrants had. This is actually an entertainment venue. Antonio was stunned. I thought it was the government office building of Lincheng. After all, it is the tallest building in the city. It is very suitable for observing the situation inside and outside the city and dispatching officers. Moreover, such a magnificent building has some symbolic meaning. That's not it. The office building is over there. Zhang Qiang pointed diagonally forward. It was a wide rectangular building with more than 10 floors. It was well behaved, and it looked like an office building in the traditional impression. But compared with the Cheyenne Weishan in front of him, it was directly scum. Can we only say that it is worthy of Lincheng, which focuses on entertainment? Even the government agencies after the end of the world have to give in to the entertainment industry? Zhang Qiang proudly led the three people in. Just after passing the revolving door, 2 rows of exquisitely dressed young ladies came up on both sides, with sweet voices and sweet smiles, each beautiful in their own way. Lin Fan looked at the smooth skin of these beauties, and their plump and elastic bodies wrapped in tights. Suddenly, the skinny and ragged women he saw when he entered the city yesterday appeared in his mind. Hey, Lin. Antonio suddenly put his arm around her shoulders and whispered in her ear in H language. There are times when God can't take care of us. We can only do what we can. Lin Fan blinked, shook off the melancholy in her heart, and grabbed Zhang Qiang, who was walking in front. "Are there any men?" Oh. Zhang Qiang spoke the two words in ups and downs, and soon understood what Lin Fan meant. Yes. I'll arrange it. TSK. Antonio crossed his arms and shook his head, frowning. "I didn't expect that you like this. Can't a handsome guy like me satisfy you?" For a moment, all the voices disappeared. Everyone's eyes were wandering back and forth between Lin Fan and Antonio. What? There is still a story of unrequited love? Zhang Qiang and Lan Bingru were also a little confused. They had always thought that the two were partners and friends. Now it seems to be more complicated. Heh. Seeing Antonio playing again, Lin Fan didn't want to pay attention to him, so he strode forward and left everyone's eyes behind him. "Hey, dear, wait for me." Antonio put his hands in his pockets, walked slowly behind him and shouted, "Are you dissatisfied with my face or my abdominal muscles?" The receptionist looked at the handsome face of the red-haired handsome man for a while, and then looked at his flat abdomen blocked by his clothes. With broad shoulders and long legs, and not effeminate, such a handsome guy is comparable to the top male star in Cheyenne Wation. More importantly, those who can come to Cheyenne Wation for entertainment are not simple people. Either they have a high status or they have strong abilities. Are you not satisfied with this? Everyone looked at Lin Fan's and hurried and come back. Suddenly, they felt that this young lady was so cool. Zhang Qiang took the three people upstairs from the elevator at the fastest speed, through the luxurious corridor, and entered an equally luxurious box, and ordered a bunch of fruit plates and drinks, which looked expensive. Mama-san quickly brought in a number of high-quality men and women to line up. She and Zhang Qiang stood on either side, speaking sweet words, waiting for the person on the sofa to choose someone. Antonio leaned on the sofa with a smile, crossed his legs, and put his hands behind his back, feeling very comfortable. Lin Fan was a little at a loss. Each handsome guy had his own characteristics, and it was indeed pleasing to the eye. But if she had to choose someone to accompany her, forget it. She just wanted to enjoy the sight and have a good time. Just as she was about to open her mouth, she heard the door of the box behind the wall of people being pushed open heavily, bouncing against the wall with a loud noise. "Hey, Zhang Qiang, I heard that your boss died?" The question was loud and rude, and it sounded like someone was looking for trouble. The men and women in the box had different expressions and immediately separated to both sides. Lin Fan lowered his eyes and looked at the two swords that he had taken down and placed beside his legs in order to sit comfortably. Antonio also sat up straight, smiling, but his right hand was already on the holster. Well, it's over. Chapter 840. Do you want to avenge him? How could he know? Exclamation mark. Zhang Qiang was shocked. Then he remembered that he seemed to have said he won't come back when he drove those women out of the villa the day before, and he wanted to go back and slap himself twice. He originally wanted to quietly clear out the property and materials here, relying on the remaining power of the former boss, and leave the Lincheng base with the new bosses without anyone noticing. After changing his mind at night, he also thought about suppressing the news first, and when the new bosses have established their foothold and consolidated their power, they will quietly replace the former boss's position. Who will care about the death of the former boss? Naturally, it won't cause any waves. In the base of the end of the world, power changes are common, and few people will avenge the losers. More people are pulling the banner of justice, with the intention of dividing the other party's status and resources. The two bosses are powerful, but they both seem to be afraid of trouble. What if they don't want to stay in Lincheng, because they think it's troublesome to fight for power, or they think they are useless and abandon themselves? He has offended quite a few people in Lincheng. In the past, everyone was concerned about the former boss. Now that he is gone, isn't his life in danger? Zhang Qiang was thinking over and over again, but he still kept a smile on his face. He called the leader Brother Yang. The other party was a big man in his 40s, with a strong body, wearing a dark work suit. His heavy Martin boots made a muffled sound when stepping on the carpet, and his bearded face was smiling. He stepped in with a dragon-like stride, fanned his big hand, and patted Zhang Qiang's shoulder heavily, completely ignoring the fact that his men were swayed by the pat. The handsome men and beautiful women in the box had been driven away by his men behind him, leaving only a group of men in messy and unrefined clothes, whose beauty plummeted. Lin Fan curled his lips, crossed his legs, and leaned on the sofa. Who are these people? Zheng Piang looked at the sofa as if unintentionally. Zhang Qiang quickly stepped to the sofa and introduced them one by one. This is Miss Lan. This is Sister Lin. This is Brother An. I'm Zheng Piang. The big man's scrutinizing eyes swept over the weak and uneasy pretty girl, the expressionless but calm pretty girl, and finally stopped at Antonio, who was smiling all the time, relaxed, but with his hand on his waist, alert without leaving any trace. I'm an old friend of Zhang Qiang. No, it's all thanks to Brother Yang's care. Zhang Qiang wiped the sweat on his head, bent over, quickly moved to Antonio, squatted beside his legs, and whispered to explain Zheng Piang. In fact, it was not Zhang Qiang who was his old friend, but the dead former boss. They met at the beginning of the end of the world, pulled together a small team, and stumbled to Lincheng. At that time, there was no formal division of positions. The two were equivalent to the team leader and deputy team leader. They supported each other in hardships and formed a deep friendship. The team is also a well-known and powerful organization in the Lincheng base. But later, after the superpowers were generated, somehow, the originally harmonious team fell apart and became many scattered small teams. Zheng Piang's friendship with the former boss also came to an end, and each of them led a small team. The two of them were said to be irreconcilable, but every time they saw each other mocking and attacking each other, they hated each other for not fighting. But when the other party encountered an emergency, the other party would help silently. What kind of relationship is really hard to figure out. These are what Zhang Qiang heard from the old boss. When he came to Lincheng, the incident had already happened. But Zheng Piang's reputation is much more decent than his former boss. After all, not everyone can tear off the face of a rogue who does not cover up at all. Zhang Qiang once wanted to go to a better group, but he didn't get the chance. And his ability may be easier to get benefits in front of people with no moral bottom line. Zheng Piang sat on the soft chair brought by his subordinates and smiled as he watched Zhang Qiang speak very quickly, which made Zhang Qiang sweat. Why, are you here to avenge him? Antonio pulled out the handle of his lightsaber and played with it in his hand. Zheng Piang stared at the mini flashlight-like thing flipping back and forth in the man's hand, not seeing any clues. He continued to laugh with a light breath. That's not the case. It's only a matter of time for someone like him to be killed. I've been prepared for this. This answer surprised the people on the sofa. Antonio was caught off guard for a moment and paused for 2 seconds before speaking again. Then you are. Although he is not a good person, he is still a friend after all. I came here to ask what happened at that time. At least someone is dead and there is still someone to think about. Zheng Piang knew himself. He and the dead ghost were not equally capable, and his own supernatural attack power was not as strong as the fire type. If the other party could easily kill that guy, he might be able to kill himself easily. Okay, alright. Antonio stopped what he was doing and motioned Zhang Qiang to tell the story. The whole thing didn't take much time, and Zhang Qiang finished it quickly even with all kinds of adjectives. Zheng Piang was silent for a while, slapped his thigh hard, and said with a smile, I knew that he would die sooner or later because of his recklessness, but he just didn't listen. He shook his head helplessly, his expression revealing sadness. The reason why the two separated was largely because he could not agree with the way the other party indulged in desires. Forget it. Zheng Piang looked up again, and there was only a smile on his face, but he looked at Antonio more seriously. Which base are you two from? Such powerful strength should not be unknown. In Zhang Qiang's story, only the part about the death of the former boss, Lin Fan, did not have much role, and in his heart, he did think that Brother An, who had superpowers, was a little better than Sister Lin, who did not have superpowers. Although Lin Fan was also invincible, wherever his sword went, his superpowers would be improved, and no matter how powerful his swordsmanship was, he could only stop there. So at this time, Zheng Piang still thought that Lin Fan and Lan Bingru next to him were Antonio's vassals, and did not take them seriously. The strong in the end times are still dominated by men. Women don't know, whether it's because of physical limitations, personality reasons, family burdens, or other reasons. Even if there are strong superpowers, their number is still far less than that of men, and there are very few who can be the main force in combat. In addition, the end of the world has not been here for long. Most female superpowers are similar to Lan Bingru, hovering at the level of 1 or 2. If they can reach the level of 3 or 4, and reach the level of Zheng Piang, they are already very powerful as the main force in combat. Of course, there are even more powerful ones. I heard that there is a level 6 ice type female superpower in Huarai base, with amazing combat power. She is praised by Huarai people as the Ice Queen, and is the only woman standing at the top of the superpower level pyramid. But even if she has proved herself with her strength, there will always be unpleasant voices, blaming their hard-earned status on the relationship under her skirt. High-level superpowers like the Ice Queen are equivalent to the symbol of the combat power of a base, and it is impossible for them to leave the base and run around at will. Most of the 3 and 4 level female superpowers also follow the team, and there are always vassals around them. There is always a large group of people coming in and out, and they can be recognized at a glance. Therefore, a lone woman like Lin Fan could not be considered a high-level female superpower. She might not even be a superpower. She could only be a subordinate of the man next to her. Lin Fan didn't care what others thought. She was glad that Zheng Piang didn't talk to her. Socializing is tiring. When she heard the question, she was very excited. She looked at Antonio with a slightly raised corner of her mouth, wanting to hear how he would make it up. Antonio had been prepared, and didn't feel guilty at all. We are from the Winter Palace in the north. Chapter 841 Zheng Piang's Methods. Although the planet has only one continent, it is divided into north, south, east and west. Lin Fan and Antonio have obtained a lot of useful information from Zhang Qiang and Lan Bingru's chats in the past few days. Among them, the Winter Palace base in the northernmost part of the continent attracted their attention. It is close to the pole. Because of the harsh environment and the freezing temperature all year round, it is difficult for people, animals, and mutants to survive. If it were just that, it would be good news. But there are also mutants that survived on the ice field. Although they are not as ubiquitous as those in ordinary areas, they are much stronger than ordinary mutants. Originally, some people thought that the Winter Palace was a good place and wanted to take refuge there. As a result, they finally overcame the cold and were killed by the high ice resistance monsters on the road. The monsters over there seem to have formed a high-level defense circle, isolating the Winter Palace into an isolated island. People outside can't get in, and people inside can't get out either. If it weren't for the short interval when the signal transmission tower in the north was repaired by monsters, the outside world would even begin to speculate whether there were still living people in the Winter Palace. However, the signal tower was also built in the north, and the monsters were much harder to fight than those in the warm plains. If you want to clear the monsters and establish contact with the East Palace, you have to form many teams and spend a lot of money to go to the cold land just to get that little bit of seemingly useless information, which is not worth the loss. Over time, the monster clearing mission cycle of the Winter Palace signal tower became longer, and the news coming from there became less and less. The Winter Palace became the most mysterious base on the continent. It is only known that the people in the Winter Palace are all tough guys. If they really came from the Winter Palace, then they, the 4th level supernatural people in the plains, are like chickens. Zheng Piang, including Zhang and Lan, who had never heard of the two people's origins before, now felt that it was as clear as expected. Does the Winter Palace have external channels? Zheng Piang is worthy of being the team leader. He asked the important question at the first time. No. Antonio smiled. What he wants is a background isolated from the world, otherwise how can he play freely? Then you two are, oh, I see. Zheng Piang didn't know what he was thinking in his mind, and he answered himself, then why did you two come out? Just take a look. This sentence is true, but Zheng and Zhang can't help but think of a lot of nonsense. After learning that the two were going to send Lan Bingru south to the Penang base, Zheng Piang also had the same idea as Zhang Qiang, wanting the two to stay in Lincheng. It's just that his vision is bigger, and he wants Lincheng to be stronger. Antonio didn't agree or refuse, but just said to wait and see. After all, they just arrived yesterday evening. Zheng Piang didn't bother them too much. Before leaving, he asked people to find the men and women they drove away, and generously said that today's consumption would be charged to his account. Brother Yang, after leaving Cheyenne Weishan, his subordinates finally couldn't help asking, do we believe what they say? It's just empty words. Then how do you want to prove it? Go up and give yourself a head? Zheng Piang sat steadily in the back of the car and ordered to go to the office building. It's definitely not okay if my subordinates choke. Did you see what Zhang Qiang looked like? Zheng Piang looked rough, making it easy for people to overlook his meticulous side. That guy is the smartest. If he wasn't really afraid, how could he do this? He was obviously scared to death when he saw me, but he still insisted on walking past me to the side of Antonio. That villain. The subordinate pouted. Indeed, that is to say, he really thinks that man is more threatening than you. Yeah. Zheng Piang crossed his hands. If the two of them are really from the Winter Palace, of course we should make friends with them before anyone else. A strong friend is always better than a strong enemy. So that's why you are so anxious to meet with them, just to confirm whether they have become hostile to us under the instigation of Zhang Qiang. If so, turn it around as soon as possible. Half and half, Zheng Piang sighed. It is indeed to confirm the death of my old friend. Let's see what they are up to and whether they can provide some help to Lin Sheng. But it seems that we can't confirm anything now. The subordinate said, the Winter Palace can't be contacted at all, and it's impossible to confirm their identity. Well, Zheng Piang nodded. Let's just make friends. Don't worry about the confirmation. The subordinate looked at the office building that was close at hand. You mean? Zheng Piang's mouth curved. How could the upper level not know that such a powerful character came to Lin Sheng? We have to let them treat him well. Ha. The subordinate clapped his hands. Yes, let them test it. If it is, we will sell it well to the upper level, and the two in the Winter Palace will not be offended. If it is not, Zheng Piang sighed. I will help my dead ghost buddy get back everything that belongs to him. After experiencing the joy of a rich woman in Cheyenne Weishan, Lin Fan felt that she was not as happy as she thought. Ying being Yanan is good, but there is not much to attract her attention except for her beautiful appearance. It may be because of her preconceived relationship that she and Antonio are just like the boss, sitting there to let them brush their performance tools. So no matter how considerate the action is, she has her own barrage in her head and can't fit in at all. Antonio has been smiling all the time, hugging left and right, looking like a fish in water, very comfortable. She was completely unable to display her skills and wished she could stay as far away from those strange handsome boys as possible. She probably couldn't enjoy the so-called blessing of having two wives. Moreover, the mixed fragrance made her want to sneeze all the time. Later, seeing that she was not used to it, Antonio simply drove everyone away. After instigating Lan Bingru to sing karaoke for a while, he started playing the game specially prepared by Zhang Qiang. To be honest, the games on this planet are really fun. Lin Fan thought he could bring a set to the Noah, which can be considered a specialty, if it wasn't after dark, and Zhang Qiang said that there was a beautiful night view to take them to see. Lin Fan might have to play in the box all night, reliving the old dream of an internet-addicted girl. The night view of lynching is not that beautiful, but the bright lights and flashing neon lights have a unique flavor, and it is easy to remind people of the distant Langsing. The sky looks the same dark, but it is actually not the same universe. Lin Fan looked up at the stars in the sky and asked Antonio, guess where the Noah is? You can't see it anywhere. Antonio laughed at her stupidity, but it should be right up there. There may be a bunch of people around, watching our video as a live broadcast. Both of them brought communication equipment down, including a miniature camera. Lin Fan wore the second earring on her left ear. The inconspicuous glass bead in the middle of the small flower was where the camera was. That earring was a magical instrument specially made for her by the Special Affairs Office. It has a combination of ordinary video, translator functions and other complex functions. Because of the special refining method, it is small and inconspicuous, and it is difficult to destroy. You can switch between different functions by tapping lightly, which makes Antonio jealous. And his camera can only be hidden on the dog tag necklace. It is so big, and hanging around the neck, it is not delicate at all. The communication of this planet has been cut off from the satellite because the signal tower was surrounded and occupied by monsters, but the signal transmission channel of Noah is still there. So Noah saw everything that happened to Lin Fan and Anthony after they landed clearly through the cameras on them. Except for taking a shower, sleeping, and other relatively private times, the two would turn off the camera. The communication was also always connected, but it was basically one-way transmission. Noah did not issue any additional instructions, and it was up to the two to do it. The microphone could also be turned off manually. Just like now, both of them turned off the microphone, leaving only the camera, lying quietly on the roof, looking up at the stars, and chatting about Langsing's past. Lang Bingru and Zhang Qiang watched from afar, and did not dare to get close, for fear of disturbing the atmosphere of the two big guys talking about love. That night, Lin Fan dreamed of Langsing. He dreamed of clear lake water, green woods, cicada sounds, and gentle breeze. After waking up, he sorted out his mood and went downstairs. He found that in addition to Zhang Qiang, there were several strangers sitting in the living room who were dressed formally and looked arrogant. They stared at Lin Fan since she appeared, their eyes full of scrutiny and criticism, much more impolite than Zhang Qiang. Lin Fan ignored them, walked into the kitchen, and saw Lan Bingru hiding inside. Hey, where's Anton? She felt a little strange. Could it be that he hadn't woken up yet? Brother and went out early in the morning and hasn't come back yet. Lang Bingru replied. Lin Fan nodded, sat at the dining table, and waited for breakfast. Miss Lin, a stranger on the sofa said, please come over here. Call me? Lin Fan turned his head slowly with a fork in his hand. Who are you? I received a notice yesterday evening that the game will be free at 2 PM on the 24th. The last free game was shortly after it was launched, at the end of December 22nd, when I was in Zhenjiang. For 3 consecutive days, it brought a large wave of data. I still remember that when I saw more than 2,000 subscriptions a day, I was so happy that I thought I was going to take off. Who knew it was just a flash in the pan? That month, my salary was 1,200 yuan, and it was the only time I paid taxes. After those few days, the data continued to fall off a cliff, and even the recommendation was gone. I also went from chasing data every day to no longer caring about it now. More than a year has passed, and I don't dare to hope to take off. I just hope that there will be another wave of data, so that my salary will increase a little, which can give me more motivation to write. Love you guys. Chapter 842, The One Who Has No Superpowers. Lin Fan didn't mean to cause trouble, but her casual attitude had obviously angered the other party. The young man's face was immediately full of anger, and he stood up. Zhang Qiang saw that it was not good, so he ran over and stretched out his hand to comfort him. It's a misunderstanding. I'll do it. The young man didn't care about Zhang Qiang and was about to scold him, but after hearing the older man next to him cough twice, he regained some rationality and sat down reluctantly. Sister Lin, Zhang Qiang saw that the other side was stable and hurried to the dining table, bent over and reported to Lin Fan in a low voice. They are from the government affairs office, saying that they want to invite you and brother in to go to the government affairs office. It should be the intention of recruiting. Everyone who should know about the death of the former boss should know it. There are no secrets in troubled times. It was just that Zhang Qiang didn't expect that the first to take action was the government affairs office. Considering the strength of the two bosses, they are definitely the targets to be won over, and maybe they will be praised by the higher-ups. Zhang Qiang thought about the future that was about to rise to the top, and his heart was happy. He was not worried at all, and even welcomed it. Lin Fan didn't even put down her fork, and glanced over there. The young one was still glaring at her with an unhappy look on his face. Oh, is this your attitude towards recruiting here? Hey, Zhang Qiang quickly glanced at the sofa, making sure that they couldn't hear what was said here, and then stepped to the other side of Lin Fan, farther away from the sofa, and smiled at them flatteringly without blinking, while explaining to Lin Fan. People in the government affairs office are all like this. They think they have the life and death of the whole city in their hands. Even the smallest receptionist has a nose in the sky, not to mention that these two are from the secretariat. Oh. Lin Fan glanced again. I thought you guys talk based on strength here. If I'm not mistaken, these two should be ordinary people, right? In the end times, basically all of them rely on these superpowers to fight for their lives and snatch space from superpower creatures. Even the water they drink and the fruits and vegetables they eat are all produced by the superpowers with great effort. Logically speaking, superpowers should have an absolute status. At least they should have basic respect. The strong are respected, and strength comes first. This is an iron rule, no matter which planet or era it is. Let's not talk about the contempt for rank. There is no reason for ordinary people to look down on people with special abilities. Otherwise, how could Zhang Qiang's former boss get such a good residence with his bad character? Isn't it because of strength? Status is also a kind of strength. Zhang Qiang complained unhappily. Although they don't have special abilities, they have a backstage. There are always people who can speak to their parents, brothers, sisters, uncles, and brothers at home. Arranging a position for them in the government affairs office is equivalent to the welfare of people with special abilities. Those who can work in the government affairs office cannot be treated as ordinary people. Is that so? Lin Fan was stunned for a moment. If it's all through the back door, can your government affairs system operate normally? Generally speaking, because jobs found through connections are easy to come by, workers usually don't cherish them too much. Because of the backstage connections, as long as they don't make big mistakes, they are not afraid of unemployment, and passive sabotage is the most common. Lynching is okay. The people in the government affairs office are not all people who got in through the back door. Of course, there are also people with real abilities. Look, that old man is just making a living by his ability. You can tell at a glance that he knows much more than the young man. People with backers in the government affairs office also look at people carefully. There are no real fools. The person in charge of lynching is also an ordinary person. You can see that the inner city is almost the same as before the end of the world. It's all thanks to that person. But, Lin Fan asked again, if the biggest person in charge of the base is also an ordinary person, why do you people with special abilities listen to him? In novels, the bosses of the base are all chosen ones with special abilities. They can kill monsters in seconds, manage a base properly, and have a love affair with the heroine and the supporting actress. When Lin Fan saw them before, he only thought that these people were amazing. After being on the Noah for a long time, and seeing Sen Fangyuan work with his own eyes, he knew how limited a person's ability is in a limited time. The people on the Noah obeyed Sen Fangyuan. On the surface, it seemed that he was capable and convinced, and there was nothing wrong with him. From the underlying logic, the people on the ship are a community of interests, heading for a goal and benefit. Having a better leader to execute will make everyone and everything more efficient. Thinking deeper, among the grassroots combat crew, H people account for almost 2/3 of the total members. Lang Meng's original statement said that it was selected according to the global population ratio. Lin Fan didn't think so. Of course, there is also the relationship of her calmness. Apart from her high military value, there is also the reason that the Noah is completely under her control. In summary, as long as there is a brain and wants to continue to stay on the Noah, no one will provoke without reason. But lynching is different from the Noah. The survivors in the city seem to have a common enemy, but the goals are not clear, and the people's hearts are loose. Some people want higher power, some just want to enjoy the present, and some even just want a meal. In this case, it is not easy to gather people's hearts. This is why, after having superpowers, the existing superpower teams all survive in small groups. Of course, there is a reason for the difference in ideas, but there is another potential reason. Everyone thinks that they are the chosen ones, and few people with great abilities are willing to be inferior to others. So, with so many people with superpowers rising up, how can they unconditionally obey ordinary people without superpowers? Oh my sister Lin, Zhang Qiang was a little anxious. Didn't I just tell you? There are superpowers behind these ordinary people. The two sons of the leader of Olincheng are both superpowers, and they are level 6. Zhang Qiang made a 6 gesture with reverence. I heard a while ago that one of them is about to break through to the 7th level, but I don't know if he succeeded. In short, as long as these two sons don't fall, the position of the boss will be stable. Besides, he is really capable. Before the end of the world, he seemed to be a district chief. He is familiar with urban management. Urban management is a systematic subject, not like a simulation game. Maybe you can just play it again. Don't think that the journey into the city is not good, but you have to compare with who, right? Zhang Qiang glanced at the kitchen and saw that Lan Bingru didn't come out. He put his hand to his mouth and whispered, compared to Miss Lan's original base, it's heaven. Those people in the government affairs office have seen too many high-level people. Even if they don't look kindly upon us, who are useless low-level psychics, at least they didn't torture us to death, right? Miss Lan's former captain also rose to the 3rd level despite the lack of resources, but was forced to flee. What do you think? So it's not necessarily good for a high-level psychic to be the boss. He doesn't know anything, and he only cares about his own pleasure, leaving no room for other people in the city. Her original boss was a psychic? Lin Fan knew for the first time. Well, at the peak of the 6th level, all the city's resources were used to upgrade him. How could he not be great? Unfortunately, he became too powerful and started to indulge in extravagance and debauchery, and no longer focused on his psychic powers. He indulged in wine and women all day long, just like the emperor before, and the people below followed suit. The atmosphere was a mess, and it spread to us. You'll see, when other bases are free, a high-level person will come to deal with him. Zhang Qiang's eyes flashed with a gleam of evil interest. Lin Fan was about to gossip when he was interrupted by an angry voice. Hey, how long are you going to chat? They can chat whenever they want. Antonio's voice came. He stood at the gate with a smile on his face. The brilliant sunlight behind him seemed to give him a layer of holy light, just like the appearance of a movie character. The young man suddenly fell silent, and the older man finally stood up with a decent smile. Mr. N, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 843 Information Barrier. The two people from the Secretariat finally changed their arrogance and showed a sincere attitude, but Antonio didn't care at all and sent them away with a few words, which made Zhang Qiang tremble with fear. Even though the two people seemed to be indifferent, Zhang Qiang still hurriedly followed them to send them off, trying to make up for it as much as possible, fearing that these two little devils were doing bad things behind their backs. You didn't even wait for me to have breakfast. Antonio walked to the dining table with a fake complaint and threw something. You little heartless guy, I was still thinking about you. Lin Fan took it and looked at it. Candy? Antonio pulled out the chair next to him, tore the package from her hand, opened a separate colorful wrapper, and stuffed it into his mouth. It tastes good, you try it. Lin Fan looked at the colorful candy wrapper, put down his fork, and opened one. Where did you get it from? Lan Bingru came out of the kitchen at the right time, served Antonio breakfast, took away Lin Fan's empty plate, and disappeared obediently. Of course it's based on appearance. Antonio pretended to be handsome and touched his red hair. Many young ladies in the city cried and shouted to make friends with me. This is prostitution money? Lin Fan raised his eyebrows and continued. Go to hell. Antonio rolled his eyes at her. It's obviously a gift of goodwill. Lin Fan shrugged and pretended not to comment. In fact, he knew that with Antonio's romantic and suave appearance, it is really possible to seduce strange young ladies to give him gifts. Seriously. Antonio stopped joking and suddenly said seriously. I went out for a walk by myself this morning and found that the atmosphere here is indeed as Zhang Qiang said. It is more relaxed. I didn't feel any special tension or oppression. People on the street didn't show any vigilance when they saw me, a stranger. Instead, several groups of powerful people took the initiative to talk to me and wanted to make friends with me. I think the flow of people in the central city is normal, and it is also normal for small groups to fight against each other. The day before, although they also wandered around the central city for a day, they were all led by Zhang Qiang. It is convenient, of course, and you don't have to worry about anything, but at the same time, everything you come into contact with is arranged by humans, and what you see may not be true. Solin Cheng's attitude towards outsiders is very tolerant, relatively laissez-faire about the competition among the forces below. Lin Fan used both hands to smooth out the wrinkles on the candy wrapper. Then what? Then I took the opportunity to chat with them. Here, this bag of candy is a gift from the chat. Antonio picked up the fork to eat his breakfast, but maybe those people are just minions. Anyway, I didn't see that they were wary of me, and they didn't reveal any more useful information. I was thinking, the reason why the cause of the end of the world has not been announced is that it is possible that, if the public knows about it, it will shake the situation. So it is concealed by the upper level, and only those who stand at the top can know it. If information creates a barrier, then no matter how long they inquire in the lower circle, there will be no breakthrough, and it will only be a waste of time. They came to this planet not to experience life, but to help them clear monsters. The time of the crew of Noah is also precious. Okay. How can we be shaken in this situation? Lin Fan asked back without looking up as she folded and flattened the candy wrapper on the table, and then told Antonio everything Zhang Qiang had just told her. It sounds like he is a man of great means. Antonio pondered. Then if we break through directly from the upper level, won't it be faster? Break through the upper level? Lin Fan looked up at him. Are you talking about those people in the government affairs office? You don't mean the boss, do you? He is not Zhang Qiang, Zheng Piang and the like. His scheming is far beyond ordinary people. Can we fool him? In Lin Fan's mind, this kind of occasion is perfect for Sen Fangyuan and Cui Yanshang, who are both ancestors of political power and scheming. Antonio grinned nonchalantly. If we can't fool them, then forget it. We know nothing. If we want to break the barriers and get to the core secrets, it's only a matter of time before we are exposed, right? I don't dare underestimate the smart people on this planet. I just think that instead of wasting time in an unknown circle, we might as well go straight to the dragon. Anyway, our strength is here, so we are not afraid of anything. Antonio can kill a 4th level monster in one move. Although he has never seen the power of a 7th level monster, he killed all the monsters along the way easily. According to the ability level of this planet, the two should not be too low. This doesn't include the Mecha. If we really can't reach an agreement, then we'll fight. If we can't beat them, there shouldn't be such a possibility. Anyway, if it doesn't work, we'll just leave. It's not like we have to meddle in this mess. Antonio had no psychological burden at all. If anyone on the Noah has any objections, let them get off by themselves. After all, the cause of the end of the world is just a possibility to learn from. The development process of Langsing and this planet is not exactly the same. In fact, there is no necessary connection, and it may not turn out like this. Lin Fan pondered for a moment and did not refute. We don't care, we can leave as soon as we say. But those who can't leave will be implicated by us. Are you worried about Miss Lan? Antonio looked up at the kitchen door, and Lan Bingru didn't know what she was doing inside. TSK, although it's a bit troublesome, it's not difficult to deal with. It should be no problem to take her to the Penang base before leaving. Communication here is a big problem, and the connection between bases is not close, so it shouldn't be easy to be discovered. Don't worry. At this time, Zhang Qiang sent people away and walked in from the gate. Seeing Lin Fan looking at him, he smiled with wrinkles on his face, just like an old chrysanthemum. Oh, there's him. Antonio followed Lin Fan's gaze and remembered that there was another person. If you are worried, take this with you. It's not a big problem. That's why I hate interpersonal communication. Lin Fan stretched the 1,000 paper cranes that had already formed in his hand and stood them on the table. Once there is a bond, it's hard not to worry. The two of them came and went easily, but Lan and Zhang would inevitably be implicated by them. Lin Fan's conscience could not leave them alone. The trouble they caused should not let innocent people suffer a catastrophe. It's okay. It's not a big deal to take it with you. It's just 2 people. Antonio didn't think it was a big deal. If you're really worried, you can take it back to the Noah. Heh. Lin Fan threw the 1,000 paper cranes at him unhappily. Do you think you're picking up stray cats and dogs? Be careful, that Vice Captain Sen will warn you. What are you afraid of? Vice Captain Sen will only unconditionally support Captain Len's decision. Antonio caught the paper crane with a playful smile. It's pretty, give it to me. After saying that, he stuffed the paper crane into his trouser pocket. Lin Fan was too lazy to pay attention to him and looked at Zhang Qiang, who knew nothing and smiled brightly. Most people would not spontaneously want to leave their homes, even if this home is not so beautiful, or even terrible. On the Noah, the topic that she heard people talk about the most was Langsing. Even she herself, when she was alone, looking at the dark space outside the porthole, would think of all kinds of things in Langsing. It's hard to leave your hometown. The emotions carried in it are far more complicated than these 4 words. The people on this planet have experienced the end of the world and mutations. No matter how hard it is, they have to try their best to maintain the environment before the end of the world. The people at the city gate have to survive, no matter how hard it is. Isn't it because they have hope for their homeland? Lin Fan really wants to help them, but she also knows that this level of disaster is far from a problem that can be solved by personal ability. The mutants grow too fast. If a group dies, a bunch of new ones will grow up soon. Even if she and Antonio take action, they can't kill them all. In the final analysis, it still needs to be solved from the source. But that source, can they find it smoothly? Chapter 844 The Lu family father and son. The boss of Lincheng base is Lu Qingyang. His 2 sons, Lu Yuheo and Lu Zinian, are the highest level superpowers in Lincheng and control the superpower association. Then Lincheng is equivalent to the world of their Lu family. Antonio skillfully steered the wheel and drove in the direction Zhang Qiang pointed. There is a father who is in charge, and resources are tilted. If he gives out 2 master sons, it will just consolidate his position. They are on their way to the Superpower Association. The 2 people from the Government Affairs Office came in the morning for this purpose, but Antonio was unhappy with their contempt for Lin Fan, and said he would go by himself. Look, the alien off-road vehicle has also been driven. I haven't touched the steering wheel for a long time, and I was a little unfamiliar when I first got started. Zhang Qiang saw him asking this and that, as if he didn't know how to drive, but he didn't dare to stop him. He was so nervous that he wanted to say something but stopped. It was so funny. That's the logic, but it's not entirely true. Zhang Qiang shook his head. Lu Qingyang is a man. He is really powerful, but also really cruel. He originally had 4 sons and 2 daughters. When the apocalypse was the most chaotic, he sent them all out to kill monsters and protect the survivors back to the base. It was so chaotic back then. We didn't know anything and had to rely on our bodies to handle it. A son and a daughter died at that time. Zhang Qiang shook his head again. Because of this, his public support rate is extremely high. My former boss said that it was the blood of that son and daughter that he sucked. Later, when a strengthening potion came out, the remaining children and his family also took the lead. 1 mutated, and 3 became superpowers. When others couldn't bear to kill their mutated relatives, Lu Qingyang was the first to kill his own son. It was also because of this that the chain reaction made others make up their minds. The losses caused by mutants in Lincheng were much smaller than those in other bases. Antonio sneered when he heard this. The throne of the superior is always paved with blood, and the routines of ruthless characters are mostly the same. Aren't there 3 children left? Lin Fan counted on his fingers in the back seat. What about a daughter? Zhang Qiang sighed. Her daughter originally had an extremely rare thunder ability, and it is said that her lethality is very strong. She was also the first to discover the crystal core, but she used it improperly and exploded and died. Could she be the one who swallowed it directly? Lin Fan vaguely remembered hearing them talk about this before. It's her. Zhang Qiang looked regretful. The only thunder ability after the end of the world. She died before she even grew up. Antonio exchanged glances with Lin Fan in the rearview mirror, and then heard Zhang Qiang say again. Lu Qingyang is a very powerful and very cruel person. What's more, all of his children are outstanding. They will do whatever they are asked to do, and are very obedient. They are powerful and brave, but just have bad luck. It can't be said that they have bad luck. Anyone who rushes to the most dangerous place without caring about his life every day will die sooner or later. In short, in the end, only these 2 sons are left. Maybe God couldn't bear it, because Lu Yuheo and Lu Zinian have never had any accidents, and are getting stronger and stronger. They are talented and hardworking, and with endless resources. Zhang Qiang wiped his face. Even the most evil-hearted person can't deny the efforts of the Lu family. If it weren't for their family, Lincheng would not be what it is today. All the people in Lincheng owe a lot to their Lu family. Moreover, there was nothing wrong with the actions of the two brothers during their time in charge of the Supernatural Association. Sooner or later, lynching will be ruled by these two brothers. So we are going to meet the two brothers of the Lu family now, right? Lin Fan said. I thought we were going to meet Lu Qingyang. How is that possible? Zhang Qiang chuckled. Lu Qingyang doesn't have any special abilities. Strangers can't see him at all, let alone people like us who have special abilities. If he is accidentally hit by someone who doesn't have eyes, it will be a big trouble. We should go to see the two brothers of the Lu family. Lin Fan nodded and asked again, did you say before that one of them is going to break through to the 7th level? Who is it? Has it broken through? I don't know about that. Zhang Qiang spread his hands and said helplessly, a small follower like me should not be able to access such information. I heard this when the former boss and brother Yang quarreled. In my opinion, even if he hasn't broken through, he will soon. It's a matter of time. As for who it is, one is a fire element and the other is a gold element. They are equally powerful. It's possible that they are both possible. Lin Fan asked a few more questions, and Zhang Qiang said he didn't know. Lin Fan thought to himself, Antonio was right. If you want to know the core information, you must deal with the people at the core. At present, the only people they know are the two brothers of the Lu family, and with their special identity and status, it is likely that they will know. The Association of Superpowers is located in the opposite direction of the office building, at the intersection of the inner and outer cities. It is a small 4-story building. The nearby buildings and pedestrians are different from those in the inner city. No longer luxurious, it reveals a more rustic feeling of life. Antonio rejected Zhang Qiang's request to accompany him and asked him to stay in the villa by himself and not run around. Zhang Qiang wanted to fight for another chance to show off, but when he touched Antonio's eyes, his heart skipped a beat and he retreated silently. What's wrong with him? Lin Fan asked curiously when she saw Zhang Qiang shrinking again. Timid but extremely sharp, Antonio smiled at the rear of the car that was riding away and turned to ask Lin Fan. You say, after we go in, we directly state our identities and ask openly about the reason for the end of the world. Will they tell us directly, because we are so sincere? Lin Fan looked at him steadily. Antonio smiled and put his arm around her shoulders. Let's go. I'm just talking. I still remember what it was like when the octopus people first arrived at Langsing. At that time, the Lan Alliance was like a mountain pressing down on them every day. They didn't even dare to breathe, and were wary of the possible means that the aliens might use. He and Lin Fan kept a close eye on them in Mecha mode almost 24 hours a day, using force to intimidate them, and were ready to go up and do it at any time. It was not until later that trust was slowly established that things were turned around. It wasn't long after this happened. It was less than 2 years ago. They successfully found the reception desk and reported their names. Soon, they were taken to the 4th floor. Sure enough, no matter where they are from, people in high positions like to stay in high places. Antonio followed the guide and whispered to Lin Fan in Langsing language. Then let's go to the top floor of the political commissar building. There is a high chance that we can see Lu. 2 guests, the middle-aged man who led the way turned back and introduced them politely. The office of the person in charge is in front. Please. He reached out and knocked on the door. After hearing the answer from the door, he turned the door open, let Antonio and the other 2 in, and then closed the door considerately. The spacious and bright room was furnished with dark walnut furniture, which looked heavy. Next to the blue velvet floor-length curtains was a set of dark green leather sofas that didn't look very comfortable. Sorry for the wait. A voice came from the open door on the right, gradually approaching. I heard you're from the Winter Palace, so you must like rum. A man came out with a glass bottle of amber liquid. He was about 30 years old, with a bronze complexion, about the same height as Antonio, and his flaxen short hair was neatly groomed. Seeing the 2 people in the hall, he smiled warmly, as if they were friends who had met after a long time. Mr. Antonio, Miss Lin Fan. Hello, I'm Lu Yuheo, the head of the Supernatural Association. He walked over naturally without any sense of alienation. It's really amazing. Lin Fan thought. Come on, don't stand, let's sit down and talk. Lu Yuheo walked to the sofa first. Antonio and Lin Fan exchanged glances quickly and followed. Just as he was about to sit down, he heard Lu Yuheo ask, "By the way, since you two are from the Winter Palace, you must know the recent situation of Mr. Samklin, the boss of the Winter Palace. To be honest, he is my uncle." Finished. How to say this? Lin Fan watched Antonio's butt sticking out, and then he stood up straight again. Blinked. I thought I would be exposed. But I didn't expect to be exposed right away. Antonio must have inherited someone's bad mouth, right? Chapter 845 How to Prove You Are Aliens. Antonio did not expect that he would be speechless after just one encounter. Although the smile on his face did not change, his hand pressed on the holster on his waist. Lin Fan also clenched the hilt of the sword in his hand and began to plan in his mind which window would be faster to escape from if a fight broke out. Her double swords were newly refined by the special office before she left Langsing, and the placement was also adjusted. From being cross-fixed behind the waist, they were changed to hanging on the right side of the waist, and at the same time, an easy to detach device was made so that the double swords could be quickly removed without unfastening the belt. Because the sword was forged in accordance with the weapons of the stars, it was different from the ordinary H-type flat long sword. The handle was longer, and the blade was slightly shorter but thicker, in a triangular shape. Align the ends of the two hilts and twist them to turn them into a spear of more than 2 meters. Perhaps because of this unique form, when walking with the double swords hanging, the swords always dangled on the outside of the thighs, and Lin Fan had to keep pressing the hilt with his right hand to stabilize it. Fortunately, the posture is not tiring. After sitting for a long time, you will get used to it. Lu Yuheo seemed not to notice the two people's movements. He sat on the single sofa and smiled at them. What's the matter? Is Mr. Samklin not doing well recently? Ah, look at my memory. He is no longer the boss of the Winter Palace. He actually cheated them. Antonio's smile was stiff, and he had already cursed in his heart. Are you two not from the Winter Palace? Lu Yuheo took out 3 glasses from under the coffee table and poured wine with a smile. It doesn't matter. It's normal to be vigilant when you are away from home. Everyone who comes is a guest. Come and sit down. This wine is really from the Winter Palace. Antonio stared at him, and he had a deeper understanding of Lu Qingyang and his son. As expected, a tiger father will have a dog son. But think about it, what is there for him to be afraid of? Holding the handle of the lightsaber in his hand, as if playing with it, Antonio sat down on the long sofa next to Lu Yuheo, not too far away from him. So the uncle who is in charge is fake. Lu Yuheo pushed a glass to Antonio's table. The uncle is real, but his name is not that. He was not replaced, but someone else replaced him, and became the current person in charge. Miss Lin, you sit down too. He looked up and greeted Lin Fan without staring at her, and turned to Antonio. My father worked in the Winter Palace before coming to Lincheng, so he is more familiar with the personnel there. I thought you would hold on a little longer. Fuck. Antonio was depressed. He should have said other bases earlier, but he was not familiar with other bases. Who knows if anyone in their Lu family has stayed in other bases, or maybe even the Winter Palace thing was a lie. Antonio picked up the glass in front of him. The amber wine was clear and transparent. Before he got close, a sharp aroma of wine came. Well, the wine might be real. Lin Fan stepped forward and held Antonio's hand, fearing that this wine lover would really drink it. What does President Lu want? Seeing that Antonio did not show any extra emotion to Lin Fan's stop, but put down the cup with a little regret, Lu Yuheo's evaluation of this calm woman with a cold voice increased. Don't be nervous, Miss Lin. I just want to make friends with you two. Lu Yuheo leaned back and put on a relaxed attitude. I heard that you two are the existence of killing 4th level fire ability users in seconds. No, I don't want revenge. I have a general understanding of the process of the matter. You two are not at fault. I just want to make friends with you two. Of course, if you two can stay in Lincheng to help, it would be even better. You are a good person. Antonio sneered. Aren't you afraid that those essays are all lies? Will you? Lu Yuheo smiled unchanged. I know the dead one. His strength is not weak. Even if the rumor is wrong, it is not easy to kill him without getting hurt. I was skeptical about the rumor at first, until I saw you two with my own eyes. It's really extraordinary. What? Do they have the aura of kings and tyrants? Antonio looked pleased. Lin Fan thought that it was probably because they had not experienced the end of the world, so they did not have the heaviness and desperate struggle for survival that other people had. The more they came into contact with the people on this planet, the more obvious their sense of detachment became. Antonio knew that he had no advantage in making up lies in front of someone like Liu Yuheo, so he did not hesitate and directly exposed their identity as aliens. Liu Yuheo, who had always been at ease, showed a rare dull expression after hearing this. Aliens? Are these two still playing tricks on him? But even if they did not want to be recruited, there was no need to hide where they came from. Although the bases were far apart, and there were many inconveniences in communication and transportation, they often exchanged resources in exchange for benefits. He would naturally have different considerations based on where they came from. If the original base was too strong, or there was a conflict of interest, he would simply make friends with it and see if he could seek other benefits. If it was comparable to lynching, or if it was not a good match, of course it would be best to snatch the person away. If the base was bad, then it was natural to go to lynching. What was there to hide? Liu Yuheo's mind raced, but he still couldn't figure it out. He looked at the two people in front of him again. Their expressions and postures revealed seriousness. Could it be that these two people have mental problems? Look, I knew I would encounter this kind of problem. Antonio crossed his legs and complained to Lin Fan. He doesn't believe lies, and he doesn't believe the truth. Lin Fan shrugged. It was expected. It's not that I don't want to believe it, this matter. Liu Yuheo still wanted to keep these two people and chose his words carefully. It's too unbelievable. You said you are aliens. Is there any proof? This time it was Lin Fan and the others' turn to think. In terms of appearance, the people of the two planets can hardly see any difference. The mechas are different, but they are only the characteristics of the two of them, not the common characteristics of the Langsing people. If they transform into mechas, it is easy to mislead, and the deterrent power is too strong. It doesn't seem necessary. Lin Fan's eyes fell on the handle of the lightsaber in Antonio's hand that kept spinning. Can the weapons prove it? According to her observation, the weapons here are similar to those of Langsing in the Millennium, with both cold and hot weapons. Elemental powers have also been induced by drugs in recent years, so there should be no organization like the Special Affairs Office, and naturally there will be no magic tools specially made for power users. Weapons? Liu Yuheo was slightly stunned, and his eyes turned to Antonio's hand. That depends on what kind of weapon it is. What about this? Antonio grinned, turned his wrist at Liu Yuheo, and a golden beam suddenly shot out from the short handle. Liu Yuheo's eyes widened, and several layers of red curtain walls immediately appeared in front of him, blocking the lightsaber. The place where it touched the coffee table and the sofa was instantly charred, broke into several pieces, collapsed with a loud bang, and exuded a burnt smell, sizzling sound. Antonio looked at the wine glass that poured down the coffee table, adding a wave of combustion aid to the firewall, and a strong aroma of wine rose up, and he felt it was a pity. He did have the intention of scaring people, but he didn't expect that the other party sat steadily. But the sofa under his butt was destroyed, and he had to stand up. TSK. Boring. He put away the sword light, and with a little displeasure, he threw the hilt up slightly, and continued to play with it. Liu Yuheo looked at them for a while through the firewall, and confirmed that the two people really had no intention of attacking, so he withdrew his defense, but kept his eyes on the inconspicuous round stick. I believe it now. He stood up, and stretched out his hand. I wonder if you can lend me such a magical weapon to take a look. Chapter 846 Holographic Projection. Oh. Antonio was so proud that he couldn't possibly give it to him. He had been thinking about it for so long, and finally got it, and it had been warmed for less than 3 days. Then he heard Lin Fan say give it to him. Reluctantly throwing the hilt away, Antonio looked at Lin Fan with resentment in his eyes, just like a child who was forced by his parents to give away his toy. Okay. Lin Fan patted his back and whispered, just to see if their superpowers are useful, and I'll give it back to you later. Magical tools need superpowers to activate. Line Crossing's superpowers originated from the World Tree. Jin Sichin also thought that this planet might be Nua's testing ground. It just so happened that they also activated superpowers. no matter how they were activated. If their superpowers also came from the same energy body as the world tree, then they would definitely be able to activate Land Crossing's magic tool. Antonio understood it all at once, but still snorted, crossed his hands, and watched his beloved lightsaber being touched by a strange man. He became even angrier. Liu Hao took the short cylinder made of unknown materials and looked at it carefully for a long time. It was heavy in the hand, and there were no delicate patterns on it, except for a small dark golden gem. It looked like a portable flashlight. How do I use it? He rubbed the handle everywhere and pressed the dark golden gem several times, but there was no response. TSK. Antonio liked to see him look ignorant. Just as he was about to mock him, he was interrupted by Lin Fan again. Input the superpower into the handle. You can control the specific operation yourself. Don't point the sword at yourself. Antonio felt uncomfortable. He looked at Lin Fan with a flat mouth. Am I no longer your favorite friend? Exclamation mark. Ah. No. Isn't it input into the gem? No, it's just a decoration to mark the elemental attributes. Lin Fan replied, just input enough superpowers to activate it into any position of the handle. Antonio was really uncomfortable this time. Liu Hao was indeed a smart and hard-working high-level fire system. He succeeded after trying a few times. He looked at the glittering golden blade and frowned slightly. Isn't this the gold element? But I input the fire element. Antonio finally got the chance to speak this time and explained the wonders of the magic weapon in a choking voice. Liu Hao's eyes lit up. In other words, no matter what kind of superpower, it can stimulate magic weapons with different attributes. Such a weapon that is not restricted and can increase attack power is simply a gift from heaven to him. Yes, the attributes of the weapon can be different from the attributes of the person who stimulates it. The power of the weapon is not related to the ability of the person who stimulates it. Only a small amount of superpower is needed to stimulate it. But the ability of the person who stimulates it will increase the effect of the magic weapon. The stronger the superpower, the stronger the weapon power. Lin Fan nodded. Then, Liu Hao's eyes moved away from the golden lightsaber and looked at the sword that Lin Fan had been holding. I don't know, Miss Lin. Hey, that's enough. Antonio shouted unceremoniously. Do you really think we are exhibiting for free? Give me my weapon back. Liu Hao's hand tightened, instinctively not wanting to return it, but he quickly adjusted his mentality, cancelled the superpower input, looked at the handle of the lightsaber that disappeared suddenly, and reluctantly handed it to Antonio. Antonio took it, wiped it childishly, and held it tightly in his hand. Does this prove it? Lin Fan asked. Liu Hao was stunned, busy with the surprise weapon, and then remembered the previous reason. He thought for a while. I have never seen such a weapon before, but it can't be regarded as a very favorable proof. After all, superpowers have been produced for so long. Maybe it's a new weapon developed by some other base. Who can develop such a powerful thing that can be carried around by anyone? Antonio retorted. Liu Hao thought about it. That's true. If Lin Cheng developed such a weapon, they would definitely not let an unknown person carry it around. Thinking about the place where the two people appeared, the most likely place to produce such weapons is Lin Cheng. Liu Hao was shaken, but he felt that this proof alone was not enough to make him completely believe. Sorry, Lin Fan saw that things were about to reach a deadlock, and he activated the external aid without hesitation. Since what we said is not enough to convince you, let's change someone who can convince you to talk to you. Liu Hao thought they had other partners and wanted to say a few polite words, saying that Lin Cheng welcomes them. Who knew that Lin Fan touched his ear with his left hand, and a light suddenly shot out. He subconsciously took a few steps back to look again. There was a middle-aged man with black hair in the room, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, and smiling at him. The familiar smell of a politician reminded him of his father. Liu Hao was speechless. How did you get in? Space ability? Hello, Mr. Liu. Sen Fangyun, wearing the uniform of the deputy captain of the Noah, greeted with a smile. I'm the deputy captain of the interstellar exploration ship Noah of Langsing. What you see is my holographic projection. Noah is currently cruising in the low Earth orbit above your star. As soon as the voice fell, Sen Fangyun disappeared, replaced by a familiar bird's eye view of space. It clearly shows the whole picture of the planet from the perspective of Noah, and there is an almost abandoned satellite next to it. My ship passed by your star recently. We planned to conduct a friendly exchange visit to your star, but due to the abnormal situation in your star, we sent 2 advance personnel to enter your star to conduct an investigation. Sorry for the interruption. Sen Fangyuan continued in the voiceover. No. Lu Yuheo, whose brain was already overloaded, replied subconsciously, but then remembered that it was not the time to be polite, so he stopped talking. He went around the back of the picture and saw a clear mirror image. He couldn't help but poke it with his hand. His finger passed through the image without any obstacles. Before he could react, the picture disappeared, and Sen Fangyuan stood in front of him again. Mr. Lu, I wonder how much you believe in our alien identity now? Is your body a holographic projection? Lu Yuheo walked slowly around Sen Fangyuan. Yes. Sen Fangyuan still maintained a decent smile. If you still doubt, you can use any method to verify whether I have a physical body. Lu Yuheo raised his hand without saying a word, and 3 rockets rushed towards Sen Fangyuan. Before Sen Fangyuan could blink, the arrows passed through his body. There was psychological damage. It was indeed a phantom. Lu Yuheo's heartbeat accelerated. Looking at the 2 living people next to him, Miss Lin had not moved, but Mr. Ren was always facing him. Even if he attacked first, the 2 did not react at all. Can you believe it now? Antonio proudly crossed his arms across his chest, using the camera on his neck to provide a transmission perspective. I admit that weapons and holographic projections are technologies that we have not yet achieved. Lu Yuheo frowned slightly, but to make me believe that you are aliens. You are no different from us. If you are aliens, how could you be so similar? Well, there are also disadvantages to being similar. Also, if you really saw the mess here in space, why did you stay? What benefits can such a world bring to you? Or do you have the purpose of occupying it? When Lu Yuheo said this, he suddenly became hard, as if he was going to fight to the death. You think too much. Sen Fangyuan smiled and comforted. According to what you said, this planet is like this. What else do we want? If you really want to occupy the planet, wouldn't it be more effective to bomb it with heavy firepower while you are busy? Why only send 2 advanced personnel to investigate? It's just that I can't bear it, and I want to do my best to help you. Sen Fangyuan's output did not dispel Lu Yuheo's vigilance, but he already believed 70% to 80% of the existence of aliens. Because of the signal blocking problem of your star, we can't transmit video signals to your star on a large scale. Your star's satellite can't send back space images in time. Otherwise, all this would not be a problem. Sen Fangyuan sighed. If you still have doubts, it is better to clear the communication transmission channel and restore the satellite function. At that time, everything will be solved. Chapter 847 Let's go kill monsters together. Zheng Qingyang fell silent after listening to his son's report. Of course he believed his son, but his words were too incredible. Because of safety concerns, we won't bring them here directly for the time being. Zheng Yuheo was not surprised by his father's reaction. As for weapons, I expressed my desire to borrow them, but the other party was unwilling to give them out of their sight. So, the result is that nothing can be seen. Zheng Qingyang nodded. Then go and clear the satellite transmission channel. Clearing it will also be good for ground communication, and it will be more convenient to contact other bases. In order to maintain communication between bases, people must always be sent to the signal tower between the 2 places to clear monsters, to keep the signal tower working properly. Therefore, ground communication is blocked most of the time, or because the monsters on the signal tower are cleared, it is intermittently transmitted over short distances. Because of this feature, many bases use local radio stations to transmit signals to the outside world around the clock for communication within the base, and there are also radios that can receive signals at a certain distance outside the base. Car radios can naturally receive these radio signals. Generally speaking, receiving radio signals means that there is a base nearby. The closer to the base, the clearer the signal. To a certain extent, it can be used as a navigation for unfamiliar vehicles. This is also the method Zhang Qiang used before. The satellite channel used by the satellite is a giant antenna dish. Because of the special equipment, it is usually located in sparsely populated mountainous highlands. In the end times, such places usually mean dense and high strange areas, which are very dangerous even for superpowers. But if the antenna dish can be restored to work, coupled with the signal tower in a specific location, global communications can be restored, even in areas with harsh environments like the Winter Palace. Okay, I think so too. Liu Hao nodded and agreed. Even if there are no aliens, restoring the satellite channel is a great contribution to our Lincheng base and worth a try. I will go down and make preparations. A few days later, Lin Fan was sitting in the empty courtyard of the villa to receive the sun's bath. After a yawn, he saw Liu Hao outside the courtyard wall. Liu Hao looked at her, looking at him with tears in her eyes, and her loose posture without any embarrassment or shyness was indeed something that those of them who were used to being nervous in the end times did not have. Sister Lin, I found it. Lang Bingru ran out of the villa holding something in her hand high. Suddenly she saw a stranger standing outside and was startled. Who are you? Just as Liu Hao was about to speak, another figure rushed out of the house and rolled over like a top. President Liu, nice to meet you. I'm Zhang Qiang, the most favorite younger brother of my brother and sister Lin. Zhang Qiang rubbed his hands and smiled. This is the second boss of Lincheng. How could he get in touch with him before? Not to mention standing face to face at such a close distance. This boss is worth it. Liu Hao knew Zhang Qiang and did not comment on his self-positioning. Antonio finally staggered out of the house. Yo. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. and Miss Lin. Liu Hao responded politely and walked in through the courtyard door opened by Zhang Qiang for him. Seeing that there was no threat, Lang Bingru walked briskly behind Lin Fan and helped her braid her hair. Lin Fan's hair has grown to her armpits, and she habitually ties it into a bun at the back of her head. This morning, when she suddenly saw Lang Bingru's exquisite braided hair, her feminine consciousness suddenly burst out, and she also wanted to braid a beautiful pigtail. But her hands are clumsy, and she tried several times, but it was all messed up. So Lang Bingru volunteered to help, and she also went out of her way to find a gem hairband that she thought was suitable. It is said that it was a good thing from some luxury brand before the end of the world, and it was collected by Zhang Qiang's former boss and brought to the villa, and she saw it. Lang Bingru knew her identity and never had any thoughts about those external things. But for her sister Lin, no matter how good the things are, they are worth it, not to mention those beautiful things that are left over. Even if you bring all the good things in the world, sister Lin is worth it. Lang Bingru didn't know when she had put a super filter on Lin Fan, and even Antonio had to be ranked behind in her heart. Liu Hao walked up to Antonio, exchanged a few words with him, and followed his gaze to look at Lin Fan in the yard. The girl didn't have a weapon with her and was not moved by his arrival at all. She turned her back to everyone and let people move on her head, seemingly without any defense. By the way, let me correct you. Antonio enjoyed watching the warm scene bathed in the sun and regretted not bringing his phone down. My full name is Antonio Madden. You can call me Mr. Madden, Mr. Antonio, or just Antonio. Mr. N is wrong. Liu Hao smiled apologetically. Sorry, it's my mistake, Mr. Antonio. Then Miss Lin Fan. Her name is fine. What about me, brother? Zhang Qiang leaned over like a sycophant. Should I call you Brother Antonio? Or Brother Madden? Antonio felt uncomfortable and waved his hand. Don't change it. Zhang Qiang was delighted. Look, I'm special in my heart. He happily handed over the drinks on the tray, and after the two took them, he ran towards Lin Fan again. I came here today to tell you that the team to clear the satellite channel has been formed, and all the personnel and materials are in place. However, many middle and higher level psychics in Lincheng are on missions outside, and the team hastily formed is still lacking in combat effectiveness. After a little leisure, Liu Hao finally told the purpose of this trip. He also described in detail the degree of danger of this trip. To put it bluntly, he just wanted to get these two aliens together. Increasing the strength of the team is indeed one of the purposes. On the other hand, he also wants to see with his own eyes the true strength of these two people. Since they are going to open the communication channel and connect directly with their spacecraft, these two people should not stay out of it, right? Antonio leaned against the doorframe with his arms around his chest, still looking at the back of Lin Fan, who was braiding his hair. He had expected it, and he didn't even give Lu Yuheo next to him a glance, and responded with a no. Is it true that the legend that Antonio has a special liking for Lin Fan and can't pursue him is true? Lu Yuheo saw it all, but asked, the team has already assembled. I wonder if you two. It's not okay to rush women when they are dressing up. Don't you have such a gentleman tradition here? Antonio looked disgusted, as if he had never seen the world. Really not. Lu Yuheo blinked. Most women would be ready and waiting for him. Fortunately, Lin Fan didn't let the two wait for long. Even the most delicate centipede braids were not difficult to make in Lan Bingru's skillful hands. She neatly tied the gem hairband she had specially found at the end of her hair. Zhang Qiang had already held 2 mirrors for Lin Fan to look at. This annoying guy. Lan Bingru cursed inwardly, snatched one and put it behind Lin Fan's head. Sister Lin, what do you think? Lin Fan was still lazy, and she was almost asleep. Knowing that it was good, she was refreshed, tilted her head left and right, and gave a thumbs up to her new hairstyle. Great. You should be a hairdresser. Lan Bingru smiled shyly. I originally studied beauty makeup and hairstyling. So that's it. Lin Fan understood. Through Zhang Qiang's mirror, she saw 2 people standing behind her, and Antonio was waving at her. Hey, baby. President Lu is waiting for us to go and kill monsters together. Can we go now? Lin Fan pulled the corner of his mouth, stood up, and didn't bother to pay attention to his desire to perform. Let's go. Chapter 848. The beginning is difficult. Because it was an unprecedented large-scale high-risk clearance operation, Lu Yuheo assembled more than a dozen teams, with a total of 70 to 80 people. When the long convoy passed through the city gate, even the poor people who were huddled in the shacks came out from the dark and stopped to watch. Lin Fan couldn't bear to see their skinny bodies and numb and desperate eyes, so he closed his eyes and pretended to take a nap in the back seat. Their car was ranked 5th, and it was an off-road vehicle with very good performance. Lu Yuheo drove it himself, and there were only 3 of them in the car. In the middle of the convoy was a fully enclosed armored vehicle, which was loaded with supplies needed for this operation, all provided by the lynching base. There was also an empty truck behind it, which was said to be used to load supplies that might be collected on the road. Lu Yuheo was very well prepared. He sent people in advance to clear the less dense mutant creatures along the road, to keep the team full of physical strength. Even the cars in the convoy, although they were not uniform in shape, were mostly high ground, high performance sea-resistant models. Maybe because they were on an alien planet, they didn't have a strong sense of belonging, or maybe because they had seen the power of mutant creatures, and were confident in their own strength. Lin Fan sat in the back seat, looking at the winding convoy, and listening to the conversation of the 2 people in front, feeling like going on an outing. In Lu Yuheo's introduction, they finally learned the official name of this planet, Chyandu Star. It means the city of the sky. Each country also has the term Chyandu Star, but it refers to one of the 7 southern stars, which is obviously different from what is referred to here. Chyandu Star has a recorded history of more than 3,000 years since the establishment of civilization. The amazing coincidence forced the Talangsing people to add a few points to Jin Sichin's guess about the newer test site. Lu Yuheo also asked a lot of questions. Knowing that there is a Langsing in the distant solar system, and knowing that Noah's search for Chyandu Star was guided by the Octopus people. Because of the alien spacecraft and holographic projection, Lu Yuheo took it for granted that the technological progress of Langsing was too advanced. Especially when he heard Antonio say that every person on Langsing has a touchscreen microcomputer personal terminal device and AI artificial intelligence has been popularized in daily life. The second generation official who had just used a color screen keypad mobile phone showed a yearning expression. Lin Fan held back his laughter and watched Antonio fool around, applying all the things in science fiction movies to Langsing, which made Lu Yuheo stunned and more serious in his actions. Although someone cleared the road in advance, as the route became more and more remote and deep, and entered the uninhabited forest, the complex road conditions still made the convoy's journey extremely slow. The convoy stopped and started, constantly clearing the road blocked by various things. Antonio relied on his social bull attributes and his brave performance in the first place, and soon became one with the superpowers in Lin Fan, who all thought he was a new high-level superpower. The familiar appearance of calling brothers and sisters made even Liu Yuheo deeply admired. In the evening, in front of the campfire in the rest area, Lin Fan quietly watched Antonio dancing not far away and happily took the bottle of wine handed to him and drank it quickly. They really collected a lot of supplies along the way. They filled the specially emptied truck and couldn't put it in, so they stuffed it into the armored vehicle. Even if the satellite channel was not cleared, the supplies alone were worth it. Liu Yuheo walked to her side with 2 plates of food that looked quite exquisite and sat down, handing her a plate. "Miss Lin, have something to eat." Lin Fan thanked him and took it, eating slowly, watching Antonio as a short video. "We will enter the forest area tomorrow," Liu Yuheo said. "Will Miss Lin take action?" After a few days, he found that, when the whole group was killing mutant plants, Miss Lin just stood quietly not far from the battlefield, holding the sword and watching, without any intention of taking action. Instead, Antonio, who he always thought was the leader, charged forward every time. Although it has something to do with his own personality, after observing for a few days, Liu Yuheo felt that Lin Fan's status might be higher than Antonio's, or her combat power was higher than Antonio's. So he looked forward to Lin Fan's action every day, wanting to see what her weapon and strength were like, which became his most desired wish in the near future. "I think so," Lin Fan replied lazily. "When the time comes, I will naturally take action." Lin Fan found that he could pretend to be profound by saying less. The less she talked, the more Liu Yuheo felt that she had a secret, and he always looked for opportunities to explore her bottom. On the contrary, Antonio, who knew everything, was not so attractive after being hollowed out. Speaking of which, Liu Yuheo really took Lin Fan's perfunctory attitude as a master's gesture and continued to say nonchalantly, "I still don't know what your superpowers are. Although Mr. Antonio's weapon is gold-based, he may not be a gold-based superpower user, right?" That's true. Lin Fan thought to himself that they were not superpower users in the strict sense. Without the magic weapon, they couldn't perform anything. Oh, she has a lightning plug-in pack, so can she barely be considered a lightning type? He's not. Lin Fan still replied politely. Liu Yuheo waited for a while, but there was no follow-up. He wanted to ask again, but was afraid of making Lin Fan unhappy. Just as he was hesitating, Antonio came and pulled him away. Lin Fan turned his back calmly and flicked his earrings. A small 3-dimensional map was projected on the ground that no one could see. "This area is very dense with life forms," Sen Fangyuan's voice sounded. "It's almost connected into a piece. You must be careful tomorrow." Although Lin Fan and Antonio have strong repair abilities, they are not immortal after all. The situation on the battlefield changes rapidly, and the mutant plants are unprecedented. Who knows what bad situation they will face. It is better not to get hurt. Got it. Lin Fan wrote down the map, said a few more words to Sen Fangyuan, and cut off the call. The weather on the second day was not good. The sky was gloomy. The golden wheel of Chyandu Star, or the sun that Lin Fan and his friends used to call, hid in the grey clouds and did not come out. Even the stench in the air was much heavier. This is not a good sign. Antonio put his hands on the awning and curled his lips at the mountain forest that seemed to be shrouded in fog. "You care about these things now?" Lin Fan looked at the red hair on his head and still found it difficult to adapt. "Why not? I have taught you in the School of Supernatural Powers. The right time, the right place, and the right people are all indispensable." Antonio did not learn anything useful about supernatural powers, but he did learn a lot of these miscellaneous things. Supernatural Power School? Liu Yuheo's ears moved. There is also a school dedicated to studying supernatural powers on Langsing. He was more certain of the two people's identity as high-level supernaturals. The people of Lincheng Supernatural Power Association did not care about Antonio's tricks. They just felt that the mutant plants shrouded in fog were more difficult to deal with. Water vapor would increase the humidity in the air, which would not be so friendly to the nemesis of plants, fire supernatural powers. Sure enough, not long after entering the mountain forest, dense plants rolled up. Perhaps because they had never been cleaned up, they were larger and denser than the mutant plants they had seen before. The psychics only felt that these yellow-green plants were falling towards them like a landslide and tsunami, but the serrated leaves turned into sharp arrows and shot at them. The huge sense of oppression made these experienced high-level psychics feel suffocated. Fuck. Antonio was the first to rush up with a sword, and the first to run back with his head in his hands. How the hell do we fight this? A huge earth wall instantly rose from the ground to block the dense leaf attack. But the soil brought out more vines and roots, climbing on the earth wall to attack everyone. The fire psychics tried their best to launch various large and small firewalls, fireballs, and rockets. The gold psychics controlled the various sharp blades that appeared to cut the roots of the plants close to the ground. Liu Hao, the only one who did not take action along the way, could not stand anymore. He spread his arms, and the dense fire chains crossed into a wall, quickly rolling forward. Before coming, he made plans. There is no need to clear the entire forest area. Just clear a path to the satellite dish, and then clear the area around the satellite dish. The journey was smooth, but unexpectedly, the first step towards the forest area was almost impossible to enter. As the president of the Superpower Association and the initiator of the action, Liu Hao naturally cannot retreat easily, but he has already felt the pressure, and beads of sweat are sliding down his forehead. If they continue to advance like this, their superpowers are simply not enough to support them. He kept weighing the pros and cons in his mind, but saw a flash of light and a figure passing by from behind. As fast as the wind, he stepped on the bodies of the people in front, and soared into the air. With a metallic sound of clang, Lin Fan drew her sword in the air. Chapter 849, Strength Overwhelms. The moment the sword was drawn, two wind blades slashed forward diagonally, mixed in with various supernatural attacks, and easily cut off the two large surging plants in front. Two spaces suddenly appeared on the thick plant wall, like specially opened windows, and finally you can see the back. Well, it's still dense mutant plants. Seeing that the effect was not satisfactory, Lin Fan frowned slightly and pointed the sword in his right hand to the ground. He used the force to flip upwards and changed the posture of holding the sword in his right hand. He was in the air above the earth wall again, crossed his hands, and slashed forward heavily. A hurricane rose from the ground, carrying a blue-purple light, carrying all the earth, fire, and gold supernatural powers that passed by, and whistled and flattened the plant wall that everyone thought was difficult to overcome just now. The mutant plants that were not killed by the blow seemed to suddenly learn to be afraid, and they all hid to both sides. Those that were really difficult to leave, because of their roots, also tried to make the branches lean in the opposite direction, trying their best to reduce their presence. Lin Fan landed lightly, and finally felt satisfied when she saw the nearly 10-meter wide, hundreds-meter long charred passage in front of her. Well, adding a wind array to the sword really gave it a good attack power. She smiled, casually made a sword flower, and inserted the sword into the sheath, turned around and saw that everyone behind her seemed to be frozen. Not leaving? She asked doubtfully. Did she trigger some strange mechanism again? Ah, baby Lin, you're awesome. Antonio rushed over first and hugged Lin Fan in a bear hug. So awesome, so awesome. I want to learn. I want to learn. We want to learn. Two other psychics also looked at them with burning eyes, and their desire for strength was unprecedentedly unified. They saw this girl, no, elder sister, who did nothing along the way, but just stood next to President Liu with her sword in a pretentious manner. They thought she was President Liu's mistress, no, companion, or the daughter of a high-level leader who came out to brush up her qualifications. They despised her so much that they didn't even bother to approach her to talk to her. They didn't expect. The psychics have always been very self-righteous and speak with strength. Even high-level psychics would not be completely convinced by them. But in the face of Lin Fan's overwhelming strength, everyone wanted to worship him on the spot and hug his thighs and call him mom. In front of absolute strength, everything is nothing. Liu Hao also stood there in a daze. His mood was agitated, and he couldn't calm down for a long time. He thought he had finally broken through the 7th level, and was already the top psychic in Chengdu. But compared to the move Lin Fan just performed, the abilities of these people are like kindergarten children playing house. For the first time, the proud son of heaven felt inferior and timid, and suddenly began to believe that these two people were indeed aliens. It was impossible for Shyandustar to have such a powerful genius. Want to learn? Sure. Lin Fan pushed Antonio away with disdain. The guy's clothes hadn't been changed for many days, and there was a smell. I'll help you talk to the senior brother. Thinking back to the time when she herself had been skinned several layers of skin to practice this skill, Antonio's words should be okay. Oh, no. Antonio suppressed his little heart and ran away with a frightened face. He had never seen the senior brother, but just based on the fear of several key figures on the Noah towards this person, even Jin Sichin, the demon man, was very secretive. He knew that he was definitely not a character that was easy to deal with. He was not stupid. He should stay away from someone who was unwilling to contact Lin Fan, who was so good-natured. Ms. Lin. Lu Yuheo suppressed his excitement and trotted over. When he got to her, he didn't know what to say. With her here, they don't have to worry about the rest of their trip, right? Others thought so too. The scene, which was desperate and depressing just now, suddenly became noisy, with all the sounds of laughter. Aren't you leaving? Lin Fan looked at the sky. It will be even more inconvenient if it rains. Let's go. Let's go. Lu Yuheo agreed with a smile and waved to everyone. Stop talking. Get in the car quickly. Don't keep Miss Lin waiting for too long. Lin Fan, who was good, if I remember correctly, you are the boss of the Superpower Association, right? Because of Lin Fan's high martial arts, Lu Yuheo drove the car directly to the front to lead the way. He wanted to see Miss Lin's powerful appearance again, but the mutant plants along the way did not cooperate. They all shrank to the sides and could not avoid them. The following cars were still on high alert to deal with the battles that could happen at any time, but later they felt like they were on a picnic and laughed. Even the mutant plants were shocked by Miss Lin, and some even started singing. If you ignore the yellow mutant plants with jagged teeth on both sides, the charred dead branches on the quiet forest road, and the dark sky, this neither hot nor cold temperature is indeed a good day for a picnic. Lu Yuheo praised Lin Fan in the car, completely ignoring Antonio, who was left out, and kept showing his courtesy to Lin Fan. As he was talking, he started talking about her previous move. What kind of superpower was it? Was it wind? It seems that there has never been a wind superpower on Shyandustar. Humph. Antonio was unhappy with his mean behavior and leaned against the car door with his arms crossed. It's a wind array. Lin Fan had nothing to hide, so he said directly, the wind array directly embedded in the two swords is similar to the gold array embedded in the sword in Anton's hand. Then why is it so powerful when it is used? Lu Yuheo continued to ask, glancing at Antonio, who was unhappy next to him and remedying. Mr. Antonio is naturally very strong. Antonio rolled his eyes. Your whole family. The principle is different. Just like Anton's sword, it is just a sword stimulated by superpowers. Except for the additional effects of the gold system itself, it is actually just a sword. Lin Fan summarized Jin Sichin's words and replied. You mean, similar to different moves of different superpowers, such as the effects of fireballs and rockets, fire circles, and firewalls, the difference in size and density? Lu Yuheo asked. It's about the same. The effects of different powers are naturally different. His sword has a gold-related special effect, so it is invincible in terms of slashing. My sword has a wind-related magic circle, which can cast wind blades, wind fields and other supernatural attacks as it is swung. Does the gold system have other forms of magic circles? Antonio suddenly turned his head and asked while leaning on the back of the chair. Yes. Lin Fan raised his left hand and pinned the broken hair around his ears. The thin bracelets on his wrists collided with each other, making a crisp sound. The director's golden bell is the most common gold-related shield spell. There are many other attack spells, but I haven't seen them with my own eyes. You have to ask Jin Sichin. Then can I have another wind-related magic weapon? Antonio blinked his big eyes hard, full of want. Lin Fan didn't expect him to ask this question suddenly, and suddenly didn't know how to answer, so he simply threw the question to himself. What do you think? It seems hopeless. Antonio retreated to his seat listlessly, still complaining. Lu Yuheo quietly watched the interaction between the two, and basically confirmed Lin Fan's status as a superior. The wind field you released just now was so powerful that it cleared the field directly and made these mutant plants feel afraid. Lu Yuheo continued to guide the topic. Let me ask, is it the same for anyone who uses your sword to activate the wind field, or does it have to be in your hand? Lin Fan thought for a while. In theory, the wind power released by applying the same superpower should be similar, but I haven't tried it. If you are interested, you can try it yourself later. Is it okay? Lu Yuheo was very surprised. No problem. Lin Fan shrugged. I wanted to. Antonio leaned over again with a look of grievance. You and me. Lin Fan responded repeatedly and waited until Antonio turned around with satisfaction before continuing. But the reason why it was so powerful before was not entirely due to my wind power, but also because of the superposition of your various powers, which caused diffuse damage. Diffuse damage? Lu Yuheo had never heard of it. Antonio finally found a chance to show off and said this and that like a teacher. Seeing Lu Yuheo immersed in the confusion of new knowledge, he looked proud. Got it? This is the introductory subject for Langsing's superpowers, higher element theory. Lu Yuheo nodded with a heavy heart. Langsing already has a mature superpower improvement system, and Xianduxing is really far behind in this regard. Is this the reason why they encountered the end of the world? Higher element theory popped up when I was watching the original God walkthrough video. The general idea is that when wind encounters fire, water, ice, and other attacks, it can spread the damage they cause. Take fire as an example. In addition to the original fire damage, the enemy is also injured by wind. At the same time, the wind spreads the fire, and there is another spread of damage. This is roughly what it means. There is also the superconducting reaction of thunder to these ordinary element, which is similar to the meaning, that is, the superposition damage effect. There is a complete set of theories in it, and there are data explanations. I don't fully understand it myself, so I can only give a rough idea. There is also water that increases the attack of ice, fire that melts water and ice, and so on. These are roughly the meanings. I think it makes sense, so I used it. I didn't expect playing games would have this benefit. Chapter 850 Communications Restored. Along the way, the psychics experienced an unprecedented ease after the end of the world. The mutant plants not only did not come close to them, but also wanted to grow legs and run away. Their funny appearance of avoiding them made those who were used to rushing up to kill them as soon as they met them speechless. But the result was good, except for some people who took the initiative to go forward to tease and were resisted before dying. Everyone walked leisurely in this weird and relaxed atmosphere. It was inevitable that they would praise Lin Fan. It was not until they approached the satellite dish that the psychics found their accustomed rhythm again. Perhaps because the residual power faded, or perhaps because the mutant plants in the hinterland were more powerful and the harassment increased significantly. But this time, with Sister Lin here, they were fearless. After following a group of psychics who were eager to show off and pressing the formation several times, showing their graceful figure and superb martial arts, Lu Yuheo finally found something unusual. Will the wind field change to different colors after passing through different psychics? He observed several times to make sure he was not mistaken before asking. Yes, that's dye damage. It turns red when it encounters fire and turns yellow when it encounters gold. It's another type of damage superposition that is different from diffusion damage. Lin Fan nodded. Lu Yuheo recalled the higher element theory he had just learned. Various damage superpositions, intrusions, and superpositions. For the first time, he doubted his IQ. Is the original color of the wind element blue-purple? Based on the principle of putting it aside, if you don't understand it, Lu Yuheo asked again. I found that every time the wind element attack is launched, there is a faint blue-purple color. It shouldn't be that I saw it wrong. Finally found it. Antonio smiled slyly, with a look of I'm waiting for you to be defeated. Ah, that's not it. Lin Fan replied to him. I poured lightning into it when the wind formation was launched. So, are you a lightning power user? Lu Yuheo's voice was split, and his eyes were as big as copper bells. He had been thinking about it, but he never had the chance to get the answer. He didn't expect to get it here easily. Lightning power. Lu Yuheo's mind appeared, that impulsive but lively and lovely sister. Her young face quickly dimmed and shattered as if it was oxidized and was replaced by an equally young face in front of him. At this moment, Lu Yuheo suddenly realized that Lin Fan was a very young girl. Lin Fan hesitated for a moment and did not explain the origin of the lightning plug-in package. In Lu Yuheo's view, it was a tacit agreement. It turned out to be a lightning system. A lightning system. He seemed to be nostalgic and emotional, and when he raised his eyes again, he regained his calmness after everything had settled. No wonder those mutant plants avoided us. It turns out that it is the natural suppression of lightning on living things. No wonder. Previously, I thought that those monsters had grown brains and could suddenly sense the pressure of the strong, but it turned out that they were still afraid of lightning. They discovered this characteristic when my sister first gained superpowers, but it's a pity. Lu Yuheo calmed down his emotions and asked, "Excuse me, Miss Lin, what level has your lightning ability reached?" I don't mean to pry into your privacy, but the lightning system has a natural suppression on these mutant creatures and large-scale clearance. Why do you want us to do a lot to kill monsters on Chyandu Star?" Antonio interrupted unhappily. "I helped you out because of our cooperative relationship. How much effort did it save you? Not only did you not say thank you, but now the abacus beads are jumping on my face. Don't you want to know? Okay. According to your 7th level supernatural power, my Han's thunder system is at least at the 100th level, understand? It is a height that you will always need to look up to, and it is difficult to reach. But you think that we can do all your work by relying on our ability? No way. 100 levels? Lu Yuheo was surprised, but he did not doubt the truth of the words at all. Is it that exaggerated? Lin Fan was a little confused. She was not good at math. How did she convert it? Why not? Antonio put on a smiling face in front of Lin Fan. Your thunder pool, and what teacher me taught you. Don't think you don't know, because I'm not here. The academy has always used you to motivate me and explain the process to me. What are their complacent abilities in our eyes? Lin Fan looked at Antonio with a proud look of disdain. No, what do you have to dislike? You are not as good as them. But the framework set up by our family must not be dismantled. Lin Fan turned his head to look at the superpowers who were still fighting in the distance. All kinds of superpowers were used at the same time. It looked lively, but in Lin Fan's eyes, it looked like gorgeous fireworks. It was indeed far from the superpowers of the Special Affairs Office. Lu Yuheo waited for Lin Fan to speak in fear, but in the end, she agreed. He felt cold and hot in his heart, and hurriedly explained, "No, I didn't mean that. I just. He couldn't think of an excuse at all. He really wanted Lin Fan to take action just now. "Oh, can't say it?" Antonio said proudly, "But considering that you didn't like to deceive us, and your character is decent, I will also be kind enough to show you a way." Lu Yuheo immediately leaned over. When the communication is connected, any diplomatic actions will be negotiated by your official superiors and our spacecraft superiors. At that time, you can propose military assistance. As for whether to agree or not, Antonio instructed in a particularly rude tone. He knew that Lin Fan didn't care about these things at all, but he couldn't let the people of Chyandu Star take their assistance for granted. After all, this is the planet of the Chyandu people, and it has no fundamental relationship with them, the Langsing people. From a practical perspective, any diplomatic means is a process of exchanging interests. To put it bluntly, if you want benefits, you can exchange them for things, if they have them. Okay. Lu Yuheo is indeed a person who grew up in the officialdom. He heard the elegant meaning of the dazzling voice, and instantly understood that Antonio had elevated this matter to a diplomatic means. Of course, when the time comes, we will definitely negotiate properly, to satisfy the friendly star people. Look, there was still doubt before departure, but now it's a friendly star. Hard power is also useful in the interstellar. There is no suspense in the next journey. After being reminded by Antonio, Lin Fan increased his output and cleared the mutant plants on the satellite dish and the surrounding areas in the shortest time. Let Noah contact Chyandu Star earlier, and their behavior can also become a negotiation capital earlier, bringing benefits to Noah. Lu Yuheo watched the huge tornado with crackling purple electric sparks and other supernatural powers as tiny as fireflies circling in the satellite dish, destroying everything visible and invisible, and he was numb. He was not sure whether Miss Lin's lightning power was at the 100th level, but the tornado she released was probably. At the same time, all the radios, televisions, and computers that could connect to the signal in the bases of Chengdu Star switched the sound and picture at the same time. In the space full of technology, a man in a bright red uniform held up his gold-rimmed glasses, smiled and made a soft but deafening voice to the screen. "Hello everyone, I'm the deputy captain of the NOAA. I'm visiting Chengdu Star with friendly purposes. I'm now patrolling over Chengdu Star. I wonder who can connect with me. Oh, by the way, in order to prove our alien identity, I specially switched the space picture taken by your satellite for you." The picture went black immediately. The huge Chengdu Star was emitting a bright blue light. And closer to the camera, there was a huge thing that looked more like a city fortress than a spaceship. Its shell emits a white light that is not glaring, which is particularly eye-catching in the dark universe. "Well, how about this angle?" Sen Fangyuan's words appeared outside the screen, and soon the screen turned back to him. "Well, leaders of Chengdu Star, I'm looking forward to the moment of meeting you. See you later." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.